You sweating over there? How are you?
Great, oh yeah.
Good.
I mean, it was rough.
Yep. Good for paint.
And supposedly, it's been, we got.
It's good for us being on our property and cutting down trees. You don't wanna do that in the rain.
No.
Old Town, last Thursday, we got .132.
Is Tim coming?
We didn't
Yes,
get,
it is.
we didn't get that, we got just a little adjustment in there.
0.3 or something.
Is he rushing in from work?
Well,
I
I
don't know,
worked it
this
out through
schedule
that
is so
thing, and I wouldn't
different.
be
Yeah, it's
messing
been all
it
over
up.
the place.
Yeah.
And, I talked to some people from Martin, and they said, that, I mean, if they're an hour, I mean,
That's long gone now.
well, as soon as the wind comes, that little bit of rain,
Yeah.
it's all.
Yep.
Catherine, does this sound okay? Like, can you hear it on your computer?
I tested it out and it
Yeah,
worked
it
fine.
is.
Okay.
You know, any place you mow on the lawn, it's just dust.
Yeah. No, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna put
Some of
yours
mine
now,
crunchy.
and hopefully,
I got them mowing
That'll
yesterday,
work
it looked
okay.
like I'd been out in the desert in the sandstorm. I had,
Yeah.
and I can just keep mine muted because
Yes,
you
it
can't-
will pick
can't
up
see
okay.
them.
And we're not on the phone, so
Terrible.
that will take care of that.
Okay,
So we want to start, and first,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Pittsfield Town Council, Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could just pause for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. First item we have is adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 2nd, 2020. Counselors will look for a motion.
Will we adopt the minutes for our June 2nd meeting?
Second.
Thank you. Any additions, corrections, deletions, things we need to change in those, counselors?
No.
Okay. Not hearing any, all those in favor of adopting the minutes of the regular meeting as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. Presentations, congratulations, and introductions. We have 2020-2021 MSAD 53 budget review, Superintendent Sharon Littlefield, and staff.
I brought an extra handout, is that all right?
thank you.
When I had to go to Burnham, or we had to go to Burnham to do the information session, we kind of prepared a fact sheet to show how the budget's calculated for each town. I think I have
I can't remember.
Nice.
So, I sent the budget for next year in April to see if you had any questions. Our plan was to come in, I don't want to have my back to you, is this all right? Am I too close? Okay. Our plan was to come do a presentation the end of March, but we all know what happened. So I sent the budget, and then we did get asked to come to Detroit because you'll see, if you look at the budget book, not what I just handed to you, but the budget book, their valuation is up substantially. And our first round of the budget gave them over a 13% increase, which was more than what we thought we could even put out respectfully. So we went back a second time, a third time, and then took it to them after the third time, and actually went back again. So the budget that I sent you in April has actually, we've decreased it a little bit more. So we're coming in at a 1.43% increase this year, which is probably the lowest in in many years. But the
One
sheet
point
that, what?
1 point what?
I think it's 1.43.
Yeah, 1.43.
But the sheet that I gave you kind of explained how the state determines each town's percentage of the school budget. And so I put on the back, this is just Pittsfield. So what it shows is the MSAB 53 total budget that we came up with, and that's in your, do you have budget books that we left upstairs?
Oh, I sent that to them by email.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have some if anybody wants one, but, the state actually determines, they use a 6-page formula to determine, yeah, believe me, what it should cost to educate students in MSAB 53. And that comes in at $10,294,639,000. What we determined as a district after we put our budgets together is the 12 million. And so the difference is in red. We look at, we subtract any additional revenues we have. We moved this year 400,000 of our fund balance forward to try and lower taxes, and then our debt service. And so Pittsfield, Burnham, and Detroit raised an additional $2,201,175. And then it shows how the state determines Pittsfield's percentage of that, what the state allocation is, and then they take the state valuation of Pittsfield times the mill rate and get what Pittsfield's percentage should be. And so this is all of Pittsfield's kind of data on this page. I'm gonna give you one of those on my back. It's pretty complicated, the formula, but I did bring that if anybody has questions. We are getting about, I think, $68,000 less in, 61,000 less in revenues this year from the state. Our numbers are down just a little bit. They look at our economically disadvantaged, which I'm not sure how that is down, but, and then look at your special ed numbers. There's all kinds of things that come into factor when they look at what it should cost to educate students in this district. So I feel like we went back to the drawing board many times. After meeting with Detroit, we went back and I met with the administrative team and said, you know, there's some money left in some of the lines this year. Let's look at what we can order now for next year's budget and take the budget down even more. So that's how we got it down to the 1.43% increase. And Terry Hall is our finance chair and Lori Glidden, the business manager. So if you have any questions, all three of us are.
Do you know when the state makes that formula? I mean, because we had, going into the beginning of this year, we had a pretty strong economy kind of on the upswing, low unemployment, and then a lot has changed in the last 3 months. Have they made any adjustments to those formulas at all and reflecting that information?
No, we get it in, we get the February 1st, I believe it's
So it was all
released.
done before anything happened?
Yeah, and they're talking, so I do weekly superintendents, it's our regional group, and every week they talk about the possibility of curtailment in August. You know, I'm hoping that's not gonna happen and we get what they've said we're gonna get.
And what happens if we don't?
Then we have to go back to the drawing board. We'd have to freeze everything in August and.
The 279, which is the form she talks about, that gives us all that information, it actually doesn't, it's not enacted until usually July or August. So it is possible they can make changes up until then.
Because your budgets are due and we're voting on it before.
Right.
Well, normally back in May.
Yeah.
So you don't get the enacted one until after all that is done. Usually it's not changes that really, like we don't usually get more money in, you know, it's just different. There's sometimes changes, usually not, but you never know this year. You know, the whole point is if when you get money in, I mean, if it happens to be more, that then of course would go next year to reduce taxes, because you know it would be, and that's happened a couple of years ago actually. We got a pretty big increase, so we use that all the next year to decrease taxes. So it is, you don't really know the true numbers you're working with until July and
After
August.
you voted.
Yeah.
July and
Yeah.
August.
Yeah, it's.
Is there a reason why we're 2.7 million? Oh, that's a pretty large chunk of change away from what the state determines that we should be at. Is that because we have a larger sports team? Or?
No, so the
Better
state determines kind of like the basic, essential programming for students. So we do have, we have a great, music program, sports programs. We have to be competitive with teacher wages. That's the other thing, the state has, just passed a law that they set the base pay for teachers next year at $35,000, the following year 37.5, and then $40,000 the third year. And we've got to figure out how to
pay for it.
Yeah, so we've you can't just bump the base.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a ripple effect. So we just finished negotiating a 2-year contract, and that's reflected in there.
Because what I'm looking at now, I mean, it's the elephant in the room. There's one of our towns in our district looking to exit, and if Detroit is upset with their numbers, I wouldn't blame them to look at different, I mean, they got Nokomis right next door pretty much, and where does that leave Pittsfield at that point if we're not staying a little bit closer to our target? What are we gonna do?
Detroit, but Detroit isn't really upset with their numbers. Actually, they weren't at all upset at us. So what's happening is their valuation has gone up in their town substantially. So that's what's making that increase, not us. The reason we met with them and they wanted to meet with us is they just said, geez, is there anything you can do? We know we're in a tough spot and we know why we're in a tough spot, but so is there any, and we said, we've tried, but we certainly will try again. And we did. We went down and they were very happy that we made the effort. So they're not really, they didn't have a problem with our budget. It was just because their valuation is so high.
Apparently it has to do with the CMP substation.
Oh.
Right.
That their valuation went up like $4 million.
Wow.
Yeah, they were actually very supportive of our budget. They were just like desperately, anything, can you do anything, and we did, we tried,
And I don't want to second guess what's going to happen in Burnham, but I know there's a strong support to stay, so I'm hoping that happens.
Well,
Well,
No, you don't.
what happens if they don't stay, Sherry?
It's at least a 2-year process. They have to establish a withdrawal committee. They have to do all the research, find a place to take them. That hasn't even begun.
So they're kind of stuck, they're stuck with us this year.
What?
They're stuck with us this year.
They're with us for at least 2 years.
Okay.
It's a 22-step process?
It's a 22-step
Withdraw?
process, and the vote is only the second or third step.
Yeah.
So.
What percentage of this goes to MCI for district students?
Total budget?
Yes.
So it's, I gotta look at
I
this
couldn't
year.
What's the
figure out where
example?
it was buried in this.
It's somewhere close to a third.
A third.
Do you have that, Terry? Can you look at that? Or do you have the final?
What's the, what is the state saying it takes to educate one child this year?
So that's kind of what the ED 279 that we were talking about.
What?
That's the formula.
The
formula.
So
Yeah.
it's the 6 pages. So what they do is they do a base, and then from that they build out, okay, then you have to add in the cost to educate English language learners, special ed students, disadvantaged students. So the base starts at $6,841, but then they add the technology fees, so it kind of builds up. But when they teach you this formula, they talk about not doing it a per child number.
I'm just curious because that's a lot more than it was when I was working at MCI, which was quite a few years ago, but, so it could wind up being 8,000 or 9,000 per student.
Well, for MCI, it's much more than that, because we have to pay the maximum allowable tuition to MCI, so.
Plus the insured.
We're 11, plus the insured value factor, so we're close to 12.
Okay.
It's $3,369,000, and then plus the insured value factor, which is an additional $194,161.
I have one more question.
Certainly, because you know what, I've had to learn this inside and out for the very first year.
You probably don't have the answer to this, and I understand, we were just having a little conversation before this meeting started, but obviously there's the COVID-19 concerns, and do you have any idea how this may affect your budget for this year, or how do you plan for that?
So there's the CARES funding that's coming down to all schools, and we submitted our application last week, which will help us with additional cleaning supplies. Should we have to go totally remote, we had kids, so we were kind of in emergency education format this time around, but if we have to go totally remote again, we need to make sure that every child has a device, every child has a hotspot so they can get connectivity. We know there's much more to it than that, but so that money will help with that, hiring additional custodians should we need them. So we that money's out there to support schools right now for all the above and beyond. I mean, just, I'm sure you all know, just what we've spent in postage because
So that doesn't affect like the tax rate because that's coming from the
Right, no,
grant
that's-
right now. the
right.
CARES Act.
That's meant to help defray the cost.
that's what? That's
Sorry.
sorry.
It's meant to defray.
Yeah, it's not, they're very, they caution us not to put like, okay, well, let's pay for that teacher out of the CARES money because
Right.
next year it'll affect our funding because they use this to calculate. Well, you were able to pay for that. So we tried to make sure everything we put in the CARES application wouldn't affect our funding for next year. Although I'm sure we're gonna see some big hits next year.
Yeah.
We're on the Zoom meeting tonight as well, so we're just gonna kind of pause here for a second and see if anybody that's joining us remotely has any questions regarding the presentation, that they would like to ask.
And they can ask that by hitting the reactions button.
Could I add one thing?
Sure, yeah.
So, Monday night is because we can't have the public hearing to vote, we have to have a remote public hearing, it has to be remote, so that will be, the link is on our website, so that's to answer all kinds of questions, if anybody doesn't have a question now but wants to tune in Monday.
Okay, and we can put that information on the town website as well?
It's on the front of the booklet.
Okay, yeah, so we'll make sure and get that up on our website,
See you
and
next
maybe
week.
put it on our Facebook page
Yeah,
as
share it on
well, to make
Facebook.
sure that goes out. To try and hit everybody. I'm not seeing any questions here, so if nobody else in here has any questions, then, we can let you go. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can do it earlier next year.
Let's not have a repeat, please.
No, this was enough. This year's been 12 years worth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. All right. Do we want to, do the community and economic, and then we'll do our additional after the public hearing of business, or where's that going to fit in?
We can do it right after the community and economic
Okay,
development.
we'll put that in there.
Thank you.
Okay.
We usually don't have an additional, but we have one
Right.
this evening. For community and economic development activities and events, 3 items to mention. The first one, number 1, we're very proud of Puritan Medical and Chimbro for the great work that they're doing to convert the former Edwards building for Puritan's use. Not only will this provide for an extensive number of jobs, it also puts a building that is in relatively good shape here in the middle of town back to use, which is wonderful. And we'll be happy to have the little traffic jams that we usually used to have in town back when the other companies were here. We also would like to thank the federal government for all the financial assistance, and it is great to be part of the upcoming fight against COVID-19. We're already in it, but we'll be part of it shortly. Number 2, Peak will be meeting on July 2nd, Thursday at 10 a.m. They have a lengthy agenda. Peak is the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. And 2 of the particular items are ones that were requests that were made by Peak back in June, July of last year to the planning board. 1, they had recommended there be a review of the property in the vicinity of the industrial park for possible rezoning. And this was because the town has sold all of the industrial park lots that we have. And so everything in the industrial park and the expansion was sold. And so we thought it would be a good idea to look around in the area and see if anything else fit under the comprehensive plan and just fit in general that could be rezoned. The second item that the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Board of Directors asked the planning board to do was to do a review or have it like a subcommittee review the subdivision ordinance. And if you think about this, over the last 2 to 3 decades, you've had no large subdivisions here. You've had some small family ones, but people would like new houses, and when people come to town, the one item they find is frustrating is that there are very few new houses to purchase. And so often, people wait to move into Birchwood Terrace area in Arbor, and if you look at the deeds and everything, you'll see that people will move out over time. Their children have graduated from MCI or jobs have taken them elsewhere, and then people from in town will head over there to infill. Because they would like to live in a newer home. And so many of us have purchased homes and fixed them up and will never do it again. But in any case, it would be good to look at that ordinance and see, is it prohibited? Is there a way to increase having developers look at our town so that we can grow and promote new housing in the subdivisions? And these can be smaller subdivisions, they can be larger ones, but new quality housing as well as tiny houses and clustered housing are items people are interested in when they call. And third, and we'll discuss this later in the evening, the CDBG Community Development Block Grant for the sidewalk is still on hold pending the road design. And we have a further update from what was in the council package from MDOT. They've made a proposal to the town, which is interesting. And we have our engineer on Zoom, and he'll be available from CES, Civil Engineering Services, to comment on that and any questions that you have. And there also is an update from the engineer in the package. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Counselors, if you look on your papers on your desk, you have an item for this evening that's marked new at the top. This is a new item that's come to the attention for the council to deal with, but it didn't fall into the timeline of our agenda. So we're looking to make a motion to add this to tonight's agenda.
Make a motion that we add this to the agenda this evening.
And you'll be doing that by waiving the
Waiving the
rules.
rules.
I'll make the motion that we waive the rules.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion, counselors, about waiving the rules to add this item? Okay. All those in favor of waiving the rules this evening and adding an additional item, and this would be titled Resolution 20-73, and it will come at the end. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that passes, and we'll add that item at the end of the agenda. Thank you. Public hearings and old business.
So both of the resolutions would still remain tabled. There are no updates on them.
No new information on that, so those remain on the
Correct.
table. All right, so that puts us down to reports. Council committees, Finance Committee.
All right, so we met on the 11th, last week on Thursday. We reviewed our investment holdings with the banks and listened to their presentations. It was very informative. I certainly learned a lot. And we are planning to start having budget workshops either at the end of July or the first week in August. We wanted to start earlier than that, of course, but with everything being pushed out, unfortunately, this was pushed out a little bit as well. We do not have that schedule set yet, and we don't have our next meeting scheduled yet either because, unfortunately, Deb was sick and we didn't want to schedule anything without her. That's my update.
Okay, thank you. So we'll look at maybe starting to look at workshop dates after we have a better idea of what other things are going to be happening for the council. And one thing we did didn't we decide we liked having them after the regular council meetings or between them to keep them on Tuesdays?
We want to keep them on Tuesdays, yes, so that we can
But do we-
just tell people, hey, we're not available on Tuesday evenings,
So
and that'll make
we're
it
gonna
easier.
do them in between council meetings.
And for small ones, like if we're just hearing out, what was one of our
The
examples?
cemetery.
The
It's
cemetery.
Pretty straightforward.
That could be right after our meeting is done, because it's a nice, small, straightforward budget, and we can utilize those workshops for the larger ones.
Right,
Okay.
so that sounds like a good plan.
All right, so now that we've got the scenario, I'll make up a budget calendar for you
Okay.
to send out, you can look it over.
Okay, that looks good. Ordinance committee, we have not had a meeting. There's 2 items that one of the members of the ordinance committee would like addressed, and the town office and the member are working on putting background information together for some, sample language for that. Do you know where we are with that, Catherine, or
So
is it
for
still
both
in
of
the
those
works?
items, we've sent out requests on the clerk's email listserv and on the town manager's email listserv. And so far, no examples have come in. So we'll have to go out and look for examples. And Pete, who had brought up the items, has an example from one community. We need a few more to see how to get the best set up. But this is talking about mass gathering ordinance, permitting for certain size items is one, and the other one that had come up is dealing better with the animal waste. We have a sentence in our ordinance, but it's not enough to really enforce. So with that becoming an issue, we've done cleanup and we have signs coming. However, we need better regulations.
Okay.
So we're talking about doing like what Pennsylvania did with that, and requiring all horses to have bags behind them or something?
I think we need to look at what the options are. Yeah. Which
I
may
think
be
that's a good idea anyway.
Which may be simple,
I
but
mean, there aren't gonna be any parades this year, but, you know, in the future, I wouldn't wanna be the group going behind the horses unless they have bags on.
so those are
Well, most
the
of
two
the time
items
in
that
a
have
parade,
come
you
up.
have a cleanup person in the wheelbarrow anyway, if somebody has a bunch of horses, but, so Pete, if you're still looking for more examples, maybe outside of the state of Maine, looking in Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York State, Illinois, I believe, has a pretty significant,
Yeah, I found a couple out of
contingent.
state, but they were like, way in depth. I'm just looking for something simple.
yeah.
Just
Well, we can
because
always
we
make
need to
something more
have,
simplified.
just because we need to have some kind of notification to know that there's gonna be something like that happening. In case in point, all the stuff that's been going on
Mhm.
lately.
What exactly are we talking about?
The,
I'm lost.
With the protests.
Oh,
Right now, we have like no permitting to even know that there's a protest gonna even be happening in the town.
I thought you were talking about horse.
I thought we were still
We
talking
started
about-
out.
Yes,
I did too, that's why I'm confused.
Oh, well, just we went back and forth with the, because Catherine said about me finding a couple of things, so I thought that's where she was going, but.
That's
So did
okay.
you find, the item you found, was that on the animal waste or was that on the permitting?
No, on the
state
permitting.
The permitting is what
Yeah.
you found, okay.
And there was one town actually in Maine that just passed.
Yeah.
Passed one in December.
Okay, so you're gonna look for more items, and then when we have more information, we'll go ahead and schedule a meeting. And then we're still waiting for items to come from the town, the planning board. So hopefully, my goal would be to kind of like do all those at once, rather than have multiple meetings for small items, kind of do them all together. So we can address those when we have more information to go on.
And what we can do with the regulations, I agree with Pete, we want simple items that are
Right.
clear, that you can understand easily.
Absolutely.
that can
And
fit in
enforceable.
ordinances.
Right.
That are
Right.
Right,
enforceable,
it needs to be
yes,
enforceable,
yes,
whatever
yes.
it is.
You got a whole bunch on the books that you can't enforce.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, so that's in the works. And then we have recycling committee, you have a meeting coming up?
Yes, we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. We're going to discuss the reuse facility, what we can and can't do. We're going to try to nail that down somewhat. There's a lot of iffy things there because of this COVID-19 business. We talked about the recycling trailer, trash and treasure, some other items, a textile box possibly, maybe maybe some new ideas. Councilor Billings, you mentioned at the last meeting about True Arts program, maybe some of that stuff some of those items could be used in that component of it if it comes to fruition. And just different ideas, but primarily I'm sure that the reuse center will be the front and center, probably, because we're kind of at a crossroads of how we're gonna do this, based on, CDC regulations and the governor and all that. So
Right.
we're gonna discuss that tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, and that'll be on the Zoom.
I wonder if talking with, somebody like Goodwill, that also handles kind of secondhand goods, they have their, members handling the goods when they're coming in and what procedures they have now for that, as well as putting things out. If that might be a good
Good idea to
kind
check
of
into,
look
that's
in
for sure.
to see, like, what other businesses have that same model that can,
Actually, doesn't Pennywise in town do that?
Yeah.
Pennywise, like, we would get contact too,
Okay,
so,
I will definitely bring that up tomorrow night
yeah,
and see what kind of ideas we can come out of that and what we can check into to see how feasible it can be.
sure.
Okay,
Well, that'll be interesting to see what you guys can come up with on that.
thank you.
All right, that puts us down to board and committee updates by counselors and town manager. I don't think the counselors have anything,
No.
Catherine. I think it's all.
No, I have many boards
I think
and
it's all
committees.
you.
Many boards and committees that I'm on, but this is for the in-town ones, and those are all regional ones.
Okay. And, so we do not have anything from the theater committee yet? Have they had a meeting?
No, I have offered the assistance of the EMA director, health officer, and myself, once they get an idea of what they would like to do.
Okay,
And of course, they would be looking at this without any guidance, because guidance has not come out
right,
for that type of operation as of yet.
okay. All right, so we'll look for that when it comes. Puts us to town manager report.
Yes, and we got one more person just popped up here, I'll put them in. All right, very good. Town manager's report for June 16th, 2020. Number one, we'd like to thank everybody for their help and support during the civil emergency. We thank everybody for their ingenuity and support of not only the community, our businesses, our organizations in the town, but of each other, because we have not been through a period like this. As we open up more and more, we would ask people to be considerate of your neighbors, your friends and people that they don't know, by wearing a mask when required, following the arrows at the stores, and staying on the social distancing circles on the floors at establishments. We've had great compliance here at the town office with the distancing. Number two, town office reopening. The town office, as well as town offices across the state, sit under the governor's phase plan for opening on June 1. We're in week 3 of that. All is going well. Extremely hectic. Lots of registrations and work being done. Lots more items to do. And so everything has been going well. We have been opening at 10, so that from 8 to 10 we take care of people who want to do things by distancing, by the phones, by the drop box, and taking care of all of that. This is the 3rd week. We'll evaluate that at the end of the week, and then if we're going to continue with that, we will let everybody know through Facebook and the town website. And if we're not going to, and go back to the regular schedule, which has us closed on Wednesdays, we will let everybody know that too. But still, a lot of items coming in. People want to get caught up on everything they haven't done so far, so it's been very hectic. People have been very nice and very happy to see the town office open all those weeks. Number 3, library services for June. The librarian reports that they will open the library on Monday, June 22nd. They will have 10 people at a time. The librarian has been doing appointments for 2 weeks. That has gone exceptionally well. So they feel they have a handle on exactly what they have to do with all the items coming in, the computers and the setup and everything. She will put out a press release to the Rolling Thunder next week, and we'll have a write-up on Facebook shortly, if not today. Number 4, online services for the town. We have a number of online services that we've been promoting. These have worked well for residents. A few people have said they'd rather just come to the town office, so that's fine. They can do that next year or with their next vehicle. We have online service for renewals of vehicles, trailers, boats, ATVs, and hunting and fishing licenses. And so we have a handout that's on all of our media, as well as available here in the town office. And it has the website as well as what you can click on if you're online on the town website. So people have been using that. Number 5, new registration list. Because new registrations can be very complicated with all the paperwork that's involved, and there are a number of categories here. You have the new vehicle registrations that come at the dealership. You have the used vehicles, which are a dealer sale, and then you have the private sale. So the paperwork can be different for the items, and so we created a handout, placed it on the town website, and that's been very helpful to people. Number 6, Department of Secretary of State Bureau of Motor Vehicles. The main office and branch offices have opened up for appointments only for items that could not be completed online. So these are in-person transactions, and an appointment is needed. So if anyone is headed to any motor vehicle office, please make sure you make an appointment before you go, because you might have to go back. And we've had a few people call and thank us because they were headed down. Number 7, the transfer station new fee system. This was supposed to go into effect on June 1, but was pushed back to August 1st, 2020. So mid-June, we said we would start a very active campaign to promote getting the stickers ahead of time, contracting the known contractors that use the facility, and so that has all started up. We thought it was prudent to address all the registrations and other needs that were considered, which there was a lot of, and so that's good. We had a few people that we tried to explain what the new system to, but when you have lines of people, that just takes a while, so we're glad that we made that decision. So an ad goes into the Rolling Thunder next week. Everybody will need a red sticker on August 1st that says 2020, not one of the other years from way back. And so on August 1st, for residents, families, there will be a transfer sticker fee, which just this year will be a $10 COVID-19 sale, which will start for August 1st to December 31st. So it's $10 to use the transfer station, and then people will get a new sticker for 2021. The cost will be $20 per year, and then you get one for 2022, etc. So there will be a cost for the use of the transfer station, because there is a cost for the use of the transfer station. Vehicle tires, families for a year will have the ability to bring 8 per year free. Asphalt shingles for family residences will be $25 per pickup truck. Demolition debris for residences, they will contract with a commercial hauler. And then there is a fee schedule for the solid waste haulers and a fee schedule for contractors and businesses. And so the businesses will get a transfer sticker fee, COVID-19 sale again starting on August 1st. So August 1st to December 31st, their cost this year will be $20 for that transfer sticker fee. And so this will all start being advertised next week. We'll start selling the new dump stickers on Friday, and life will be exciting here.
Catherine, can people pay for those online and have them mailed to them? Is there a form that they can go in and fill out on the town website? Is there a way to do things like that with the town?
Not as of yet, no.
Are we gonna look at doing registrations and
remember,
things like that?
We've got all these new services with the money coming in left and right, not day by day, but mixed together. So the bank reconciliations are, instead of they used to take 8 hours, then they took 22 hours, now they're taking a lot longer. So until that all gets set up for the programs all working appropriately from Trio and everything, we're not going to add on other things coming in direction.
Somebody can just mail a check in though?
Oh yes, well, people do that all the time.
Okay, so what do they just write transfer station sticker on it?
All right.
What do they need to prove, their address, residency,
Right.
utility
So
bill? What do they need to do?
We have a list of everybody that lives in town and certain, for ownership. Then we have other records that we can look at that tells us if we're here. And then you'll have new people that move in town, and we'll have to have something that will be shown to us.
Okay.
All right, so we will write that all up, but no online forms for anything else right now. Because we've got all the other 6 setups that just went into effect.
Catherine, how many weeks are you gonna run that? in the Rolling Thunder?
I'll run it every other week. Yeah, so we'll run it multiple times. Yeah, and then Facebook it every week. I do know once you put it out 6 times, nobody wants to see it again.
And it's also on the website.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that will all go out so that on Friday we'll start selling those.
Okay.
Yeah, but no more online things until the other 6 online things all get organized.
And they don't need to have them until the 1st of August.
Correct, yep, they have
So
plenty of
there's
time.
plenty of time there. They don't, everybody does not have to go on Friday to get their guns done.
No, we'll be all set.
Okay.
And then eventually the plan is to do everything else online too. But it's gotta be staggered because of the
Yeah.
number of people we have and the fact that, once all this money starts hitting in, coming from everywhere, it's not always coded correctly or coded so you can even tell where it comes from. Then you have to follow it back to the source and call the bank and, this is a bit exciting here. All right, on from, as I said, the transfer station would be exciting. On to number 8, nomination papers for District 2 Town Councilor seat. We did not have any, and so based upon the legal advice that we received this year compared with 2018, in which we also had the same situation have, we will be able to take write-ins, so that has been determined that the law has remained the same. And so the town clerk will issue directions on how to do a write-in for District 2, or for any district, but District 2 is the one that will be listed for the upcoming election. So votes for Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse will not be accepted. We will not count those. Every time we have a write-in, we'll get 30 or 40 different other names, of very variety of characters. And so it will be valid write-ins that will be counted. And so because of that law change, it makes it a lot easier. And so there will be a list of exactly how to do this. So good luck to all. The next election is on July 12th, 2020. We have a link on the website for people to request an absentee ballot for the primary and special election referendum. And of course, they'll get their town ballot that has write-in.
Catherine, that's the 14th, right? Not the 12th.
That's what I was just wondering.
Because the 12th is Sunday.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is the 14th.
I was gonna say, we're gonna vote on the 12th, and then it
No,
goes
no,
on
no,
the
no,
14th.
no.
Alright, there you go.
Oh, I've had that each time. That's all good. Okay. So it is July 14th, which would be a Tuesday. All right, number 9, Pittsfield Summer Recreation Program. Forms are now available with a deadline of July 2nd, 2020. The programs will be a bit different this year. So there are no scrimmaging, temperatures will be taken, there'll be a lot of requirements. There is a new waiver form. And so this is necessary to protect the children as much as possible. And so for Pittsfield Recreation Department, with a deadline of July 2nd, the programs that were approved by the town council were lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, tennis, cheering, swimming lessons and free swim, and golf. And so the fee for lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, tennis, and cheering is $20 for a Pittsfield resident, $25 for non-resident, and this year is just the non-residents being Burnham and Detroit. The swimming lessons per session are $30 for Pittsfield resident, $35 for a non-resident, again being Burnham and Detroit. The swimming lessons for the family plan per session and meaning 3 or more, is $80 for resident and $95 for non-resident, being Burnham and Detroit. And then golf is $25 and is done at the golf course, J.W. Park. And so there'll be a list of instructions that everyone will receive from the recreation program. As I said, the programs will be very different than what we've had in the past. And we know people are interested in them. And then if there are other programs that people want to look at later on in the year, once things stabilize, we can look at those also.
Catherine, is the pool still scheduled to open for open swim on the 22nd, or has that been pushed out?
Because the forms will be going out due on the 2nd, then everything will start up on the...
Well, I knew for swim lessons, he had already planned on that starting later, but open swim, he had discussed doing 2 weeks before swim less started.
All right, so at this point, there's nothing on here about open swim, so I will have to check to see. We did originally plan that, but there was a lot that needs to be done at the pool.
I knew that, that's why I was wondering where we were on that.
Yeah, so
I've
once-
had residents asking.
Yeah, so once we make sure that everything is going according to the schedule, we'll release that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll just make absolutely sure that everything is done. And that's always something that's been well advertised, and everybody gets online to look at that.
Yes, they're very excited, the people I've talked to, to start swimming.
Yes, they are. And we've had a lot of calls from people from other towns. Number 10 is a welcome letter to Pittsfield for MCI. The town has received a request from the headmaster at MCI due to what's going on in the nation, and had requested, and we will issue a letter to prospective students that are coming in January 2021 about Pittsfield being a safe community, and talk about all of our assets. So I'll be doing that this week. It's really nice that the town will be included in the packages that they give out to prospective students across the world. So that's something that we used to do way back, and we'll be doing that again. Number 11, Egg Festival Window Painting Contest. We have volunteer Faith Humphrey, who works on our elections, who would like to volunteer to organize the yearly window painting contest along Main Street. With the council's and our EMA director's blessing, we'd like to do that. The Egg Festival Committee will purchase all the supplies, and then it will be set up in compliance with social distancing, all the CDC and governor's orders and proclamations. And so we would have families or family units have each window, and that could be a very fun activity, fun for the downtown, and nice for the businesses and everything. Number 12, Cape Cod Textile Recycling. We happen to mention to the new solid waste director of Cape Cod, Kennebec Valley Council of Governments, the need to pull out all of this heavy cloth and how much it weighs for all of the bedding and everything that gets thrown away in the waste stream. And he developed a textile recycling program with Apparel Impact. So once the details are worked out, a closed container with a door opening will be delivered to the transfer station for free disposal and pickup for all of the surplus cloth that's being thrown away. Items that can no longer be used at Pennywise, items that we have a recycling committee member now who transport used clothing from Pennywise that can no longer be sold to the homeless shelter, and so they can still do that, but there is material that's being thrown away. So this now can be recycled, which will be very good. And so we'll get more details, and there'll be a spot that Donnie designates at the transfer station.
Be interesting to know how much weight that will take out of the waste stream. I don't know if there's any way to calculate that.
I think the last time that we did it, I think it was right around 40 tons. So
Consider
40.
40.
40 tons.
40, for sure, okay.
It's a lot of weight. Then if you add
That's
water to it, then that was
Yeah, it'll be.
Sorry, Catherine.
Oh, that's okay. That's a good question. It'll be massive, and the last time we did it, it worked out well until the company wasn't able to sustain themselves. This is a different type of company. Number 13, mowing of the departments in the airport. The Public Works foreman has come to agreement with a former contractor who at that time was not able to get all his employees back, but now he has. So they will complete the work at a reasonable price compared to the other prices we got from the bid. So I will have that on the July 7th agenda for approval, and then we'll just pay the contractor, which will be far and beyond, on a weekly basis like we did before. We've done this before without a contract. Number 14, fire station and municipal building projects. Our fire station masonry repointing, alternate to replacement, and the municipal building masonry wash, seal, and repointing. Long names for pretty much the same work. Will begin on Monday, June 22nd, with the fire station being first. The company will work around the fact that we have to use the back and front door for COVID-19 for compliance to stay open. Those contracts were issued to Mr. Rick Keese of PCS Specialty Contracting of Skowhegan. Very interesting gentleman, very committed workers, and this will be a great project for the town. And number 15, municipal building and fire station roof projects. CO Beck, which was the low bidder for these projects late last year, indicated it was too late with their project listing to start the roofing work last year. And at the time it would have got done, it probably would have been too late. It's better to do it when it's warmer. That was reasonable, and then they were gonna start early this year, however, COVID-19 happened. So they've gotten their crews back and started work last week. They will complete these projects by September 11th, and actually they'll be done in August. But we put the contract together by September 11th. So given the current health crisis, they wanted a little bit of extra time just to make sure. Their pricing was exceptionally good. They do high quality work. They worked on the swimming pool house, which is a wonderful house. And that is the last item with all the new projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So we have new business. We have an order here, but I wanted to ask if we could move 20-68 up regarding the parks, since we have people online and people in the audience that wanted to address that. Are we able to do that before the order?
Which
Do we
one?
need to do the order first?
We should
and
do the
then-
order first,
And then we can move.
and then go to that one. Yes, it's simply because of the way your codes are written.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. So we'll do order 20-09 under new business first.
All right, order 20-09, and because it is an order and deals with finances, I'll read the whole thing. That the Town of Pittsfield Town Council hereby ordains the tax anticipation note borrowing for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020 on the following terms. Order that pursuant to section 5771 of Title 30A of Maine Revised Statutes as amended, and the ordinance adopted on the date hereof, the town treasurer is hereby authorized and empowered to borrow money from time to time during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, in the principal amount of amounts not exceeding $500,000 at any one time outstanding, in anticipation of the collections or the receipts from taxes by the issuance of tax anticipation notes of the town, each of which notes shall be designated Town of Pittsfield 2020 tax anticipation notes. All of such tax anticipation notes and any extensions, renewals, or replacements thereof shall be signed by the town treasurer and countersigned by at least a majority of the members of the town council, shall be payable on or before November 3rd, 2020, out of money raised by taxations during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, shall bear interest payable at maturity at a rate determined in the manner as approved by the treasurer, and shall contain such other terms and provisions not inconsistent herewith, and be in such form as shall be approved by the officers signing the same, whose approval shall be conclusively evidenced by their execution thereof, and be it further ordered that the treasurer, if hereby authorized to award notes to such person or entity as the deems appropriate, and be it further ordered that the notes authorized by the foregoing are hereby designated as qualified tax-exempt obligations for purposes of Section 265B of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, and be it further ordered that the treasurer of the town be authorized to cover it with the purchases of the notes on behalf of the town and for the benefit of the holders of the notes, that the town will take whatever steps and refrain from taking any action as may be necessary or appropriate to ensure that interest on the notes will remain free from federal income taxes, including without limitation, the filing of information returns and reports with the Internal Revenue Service and the payment of any rebate due to the United States of America. The end.
Thank you. Council Villa for motion.
Move we adopt order 20-09.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding order 20-09?
Catherine, this is attached to resolution 20-66.
Yes.
It is. Eventually we'll get to that one. Yes, they are together.
Because I didn't receive the bid amounts for that one, and that was my only question in regards. You said bids were due Friday and we would see them prior to the meeting, but I didn't see any.
All right. With hundreds of items happening each day, I didn't get it to you. Okay. But I can certainly read them all off before we get to that item.
Anyone in the audience present with us have any questions about order 2009? Anyone online have questions about order 2009? All right, not seeing any, counselors, let's, vote on order 20-09. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that passes. Do we wanna do 2066 since it's back to back and then go to, or just run through them?
No, let's do 2066 and get it done.
Wanna just run
There,
through?
it's connected. so-
Yeah, because I think the next two will go fairly quickly.
Alright, let's do that then. Resolution 20-66.
Resolution 20-66, resolved that the town council accepts the bid of blank in response to the town of Pittsfield request for proposals with interest payable at maturity at the rate of blank percentage per annum. And so we did adopt it as it is.
Move we adopt resolution 20-66
Second.
with Bar Harbor Bank and Trust of
Can we
Pittsfield.
wait to fill that in until we can hear because I didn't even get an email about the bids.
We don't have copies of that.
Right, and I apologize, I mean, we've been working non-stop, some of us more than that. And
Kathy,
so I
can you
just
give us,
did it.
can you just give us like the top three? Like the
Yes, I'm
lowest
gonna
three
read the
bids?
whole thing so you
Yeah,
have a
read the whole
record,
thing.
you have a record of it. All right, we have two ties. We have First National Bank of Damascotter at 1.42%. The net interest rate was $2,295. We also had at 1.42% Bar Harbor Bank and Trust, and the interest again would be $2,295. And they said 10 cents, but it's basically $2,295. We've never had a tie before. And then the next bank after that was Androscoggin Bank at 1.47%. And that, of course, would mean the interest rate would be higher at $2,376.16. And then after that, it went up again to Skowhegan Savings at 1.89%. And that would mean interest at $3 million. Well, I can't read the figure very well. $3,055.07. And then Camden National Bank is at an interest rate of 2.22%, and that was $3,588.49. So you have a choice between First National Bank of Damascotter at 1.42%, interest rate of $2,295, or Bar Harbor Bank of Pittsfield and Bar Harbor at 1.42%, and again, $2,295. And so I contacted both of the banks. They pretty much all had the same items, and under your bid specifications, you would choose the one that was of the most benefit to the town. It's up to you.
I wonder if we should go with Bar Harbor because we already have stuff with them.
Well, and
And they're right here in town.
Right here in town. So that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I'd be good with that.
Okay. Deb, did you want to read
Sure.
the motion again and fill it in?
Move we adopt resolution 20-66 with Bar Harbor Bank and Trust of Pittsfield with an interest rate of 1.42% per annum.
Second.
Okay. So we have an amended resolution with those items filled in. And any discussion, counselors? Any discussion from people in the audience with us tonight? How about people online? I'm not seeing anything at all from anybody.
Several meetings going at once.
All right, so nobody has any questions, so let's vote on resolution 20-06 with Bar Harbor Bank of Pittsfield at 1.42%.
20-66.
What did I say? 20
06.
Sorry, 20-06. Blame the foggy glasses. Counselors, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, that will pass. Resolution 20-67.
Resolution 20-67, resolve that the town council execute a letter to the Department of Transportation requesting that pavement be placed as needed along North Main and Main Street when Honeywell Avenue is paved in August 2020 to address the failing pavement until the Main Street project begins in 2021. Or so we thought when we wrote that.
Counselors, I'll look for a motion.
Move we adopt resolution 20-65.
Thank you.
Second.
66, I'm sorry, my glasses are
We're actually on 67.
Move we adopt resolution 20-67 over
Second.
fogged up glasses.
I had Pete had it, even though it was the wrong.
Well, at least you didn't say 3 million.
That's a lot of interest.
I'm guessing Catherine has more information, and we have our engineer here, if this is the one that we're gonna talk about.
Yes, we've got our engineer, Chip Haskell of CES on Zoom, and I tried to unmute that.
Yes, we did.
I did, good, it showed up. So we have,
System works.
yes, very good. Just takes a little bit of time. So we've got Chip on here, so I'm gonna go over very briefly what we thought regarding some additional information that we received. So at the time I wrote this, and we met with the state in November, the project was going to be advertised in June of 2021. So we received additional information very recently that says now it will be later than that. So let me read all of this so you can see what we've heard. I asked a few questions to get an update on the progress on the project. And so the state has agreed to that, indicated they will schedule either a Microsoft Teams or Zoom meeting and listed a number of people. It's all of the individuals that will be working on trying to design the project, which is complicated in the downtown area. All right, and they go on from the state, which is Randy Barrows, our project manager. He's very nice, he's just overworked and everything is backed up at MDOT with money items. So he indicates, I understand that the town is concerned about the project and the department would not want to see the town lose the grant money, because I did talk about that. With that being said, it is possible for he asked if we could get an extension of the grant, but that still doesn't address the overall situation. So they looked over their schedule and they need to move it forward so that they would not be advertising in July of 2021. They'll be advertising in December of 21, which means the project is now a 2022 project. So Randy goes on to indicate that he talked with the senior designer that's doing the review, and the design for Pittsfield is the next project on this list. They will have his comments in July or sooner. He also spoke with some of the design engineers that is with the contracting firm. Usually MDOT would design these, but they contracted it out because we kept contacting them and they're behind and everything. So they did hire a private firm to work on this. And so they indicate that they have gone through the cross sections in the area that they plan on milling and paving to verify they can maintain the proper roadway cross slope and curb level. They have worked through conceptual pavement of open and closed drainage locations, but have not gone into detailed design until the horizontal vertical alignment review is complete, and that's the item that they're working on now. They have not made a detailed effort in drainage and driveway design to avoid potentially repeating efforts in the event that there could be some changes that arise during the review. The department is willing to have their designer complete the sidewalk design for the town from the beginning of the project, which is at the intersection at the lights, to the railroad tracks to help expedite the design efforts. The department will contribute the design effort at no charge to the town, but to do this would be looking to enter into an agreement with the town for the construction cost of the sidewalk as part of the contract. So they're looking at offering that the town would shift over part of its CDBG money to the state, and the whole thing would be designed with the roadway and the sidewalk at the same time in the congested area that's causing the issues. And so there's pluses and minuses to that. And so their initial thought is to have two different templates put together, one with the Espalons and the one without, to see which fits better as you move further along. And so, and also with this project. So they would divide the project up so that the middle part, or the beginning part, would be done with the state, and the state would design it, and we would hopefully be able to sign off on it, and they would construct it. And then further along, once you get past the railroad tracks, we would just design that and go with it, because that's not congested, you've got enough work done to design it. And so the schedule now is preliminary design report completed in October 2020, plan impacts completed in December 2020, advertise the project in December 2021. And then the last comment from Randy, the project engineer and manager, is regarding holding pavement for your areas of concern. He is going to take those to the Region 4 manager so they can make an assessment. Because I asked him, should we write the letter to the commissioner or to the maintenance division, and who would you like us to write that to? So we can still write a letter, but they are going to look into doing that. And he indicates that any additional pavement would have to be done from a region-wide need basis, basically. But the pavement is pretty much coming off the road in sections. And so that's an update on what has taken place. So we have our engineer on Zoom, and he did write a memo to the town explaining out why we haven't designed the project, because he can't at this point until we get this information together and know exactly what the state is going to do. It just has been a very complicated project. So Chip, did you want to talk about that and the state's new proposal?
Yeah, absolutely. So the letter that you just read, Catherine, is definitely laid out two options here. But sort of looking back in time here, I mean, you're right. The reason we haven't yet been able to really do any design work on this is we need something to essentially design to. We don't know where that road is going to be, both horizontally and vertically. It would not be really advisable to do a design just sort of guessing on where that road is going to be. Because when they go through their multiple iterations of review processes, it really does. They do change a lot of things, and they just need to be changed on our end to sort of keep up with all that. So, quite frankly, the scope of our sidewalk design is nowhere near as large as what they're doing for the road plan. So, for our purposes, we're not what we call critical path item here. This would be essentially, once they have a relatively firm design on the roadway, we would then be able to complete our sidewalk design and really not be a factor in the overall schedule. So there's that piece of it. I think, reading through Randy's email that you read relative to his proposed plan for sort of I guess offering to contribute the design, I think from a schedule perspective, I'm not sure, frankly, that it changes much. I mean, certainly having one engineer do it versus two may have some efficiencies there when they're designing the road. But realistically, the big benefit there certainly is that they would contribute the cost of that, right? So I certainly can't advise you to throw that away by any means. But my understanding of what, I'll if we want to pursue this, I'll certainly work with Randy closely to figure out exactly what that break point is and sort of what my scope would be remaining basically out of that. Now, and sort of how this scope changes working with the DOT and kind of all of that. So we'll have to work through that process with you when and if that time comes. But that's sort of where we're at right now and how we got there. We're continuing to work with Randy, trying to make sure he's still keeping you all on the front burner here. It's frustrating for sure. I can only imagine driving those roads every day. It would be frustrating to not see progress. But I'm confident in our ability to design the sidewalk when the time comes here. I would not be serving well if I try to design something right now.
Thank you, Chip. Sounds like we're just kind of stuck until the state decides what they're going to do.
So are
Which
we
is what
not
has
gonna
happened before.
have stuff in August then?
Pardon?
Are we not gonna be able to have like the Honeywell spot and possible spots along our street in August like they thought, or?
All right.
That's what the packet had said. Paved in August 2020 to address failing pavement.
Right.
All right, so that's part of the agenda item. So
Yes.
the state is saying that they're going to go check at the division to see if we could do it. We're proposing to do a letter to try to help.
Let's write a letter.
Would it only
Oh,
be,
yeah, right.
Catherine, in the sections that are proposed under the initial thing that we're doing? Because that stops before what I feel is one of the worst spots of Main Street, and it's down that hill, you know, coming up from the Redemption Center toward MCI. That's just gone. That whole side of pavement is gone. I don't think it can make one more winter.
The paving won't be done on that section either. So I
Right.
would propose all the sections that need to be listed, and we'll take pictures and put it with the letter.
Okay. And that's what this resolution is
Yes,
to do.
yes.
Is to write the letter.
Yes, I'll write the letter if you're agreeable to it. We'll put photos with it, send it to you, you can look it over. And then if you like it, you can come in and sign it, or we can sign it at the next meeting. I think it would be better if we signed it in between the meetings with the authorization today.
Absolutely.
But we wanted you to hear from the engineer and see that we had a new proposal from MDOT. It's very unusual that MDOT would offer to design anything for the for towns. So they know that the project needs to be done, and it keeps getting further and further behind.
Squeaky wheel, Catherine.
I'm sure they're tired of the phone calls. Yes.
I'm wondering if they're gonna be able to actually do that, given the state is already short on funding and behind on all their projects, and then with COVID implications as far as budgeting over the next few years, if that is actually something that they're gonna be able to follow through with. But, hey, if they wanna do it, then.
If they don't do it, I mean, the state of these, it's not just ours. I mean,
Right.
traveling anywhere, Route 69, oh good lord, going
Well,
out
and
to
I-
Plymouth is horrid.
Route 100, once you get past the hospital,
Everything is.
is
This
ridiculous.
is everywhere.
Well, let's
in the
just talk
state.
about our road. So, we could go on all night long, we talk
Yeah,
about all the
they
other
are
roads.
all our roads.
So it sounds like the state is going to design the congested center right down near the railroad tracks and all of that for the sidewalk, and then our engineering firm is gonna do everything up past MCI after it gets a little
If we
simpler.
decide to do this, so I think what we need to do on the other aspect is to explore this and see what would their contract have for requirements, because if the bids come in too high for the sidewalk part, and often state projects are bid higher than town projects, would we have enough money to do this? What's gonna be the language in the contract? That's an issue. I mean, the fact that it would be done together means it would be seamless, which is great, because
Right.
you won't have two contractors, you know, two engineers don't have to work on it. Our engineers can focus on the other part.
And
I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what my question and concern would be is if Maine DOT pushes this off again, and we've got this grant, if we don't have one company doing the actual sidewalk stuff, I mean, that stuff has to get done. We can't keep pushing it off unless we can't do it, unless the street is done at the same time.
We
And
can't
maybe
do it,
that's,
it can't be done until the DOT decides how they're gonna do the road.
Yeah, that's it, the
That's
one
the
issue.
The
problem.
road has to be done, it either has to have the road done and then we do the sidewalk after the road is done, or
Together.
they can do the road and the sidewalk at the
Together.
same time.
But this,
so what's the deal with our grant then?
Yes.
How long can we keep pushing this out?
Well, so far, it's been fine. If there's a plan and a way to transfer the money to DOT, I think it can be done.
Okay.
So that's why the whole thing needs to be explored.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go forward, once they finish, there's one design that needs to be done in July. And our engineers also talk to them, because when the plans are looked at by MDOT for a town project, they'll send it to one division and they look it over and say, make these changes. And then they send it to another person and they say, make these changes. And all this adds up to time and energy and costs. And so our engineers talk to them, and they're being receptive about having just one review done in MDOT to save money and time.
Well, that sounds like a way that they can streamline it, since they're putting this off again and again and again. So I would be in favor of writing the letter so that we can actually get some of the pavement put down in those worst places, because this winter is going to be terrible. There's ice builds up in those pockets where the road is worn away and it's starting to collapse from all the big trucks going through. It is a safety thing, So I think we should write the letter and then work out who's going to design what after we have a better idea from the state as far as what their plan is going to be.
And Chip, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to reiterate what you said, Catherine, that there are inherent, inefficiencies in dealing with, in designing to a state project. As you sort of mentioned there are a lot of iterations that, frankly, are not needed for a standard project, but for the state to check all their boxes, we have to go through all of those different iterations, and it really does add up. And you're right, I had talked to Randy about that, and to the extent that he could, I think he's okay working with us, but I'm not sure how flexible that really is. So.
Okay. Do councilors have any other questions, either for Chip or Catherine regarding the project? How about people in our audience?
I have a comment.
Bernard, can you state your name, just because nobody can see you and you're just this close?
Bernard Williams, 115 First Street. There's not much that road can move up there. It's gonna have to go pretty near back where it's at now.
Yeah.
I don't understand why designing this is such a big deal. It's not like they're gonna move it 200 feet to one side or the other, or build it up 15 feet. It's pretty near gonna go back where it is right this instant. I don't understand why the big deal on designing this road.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that horizontally, it's not likely to move much. That's probably pretty close to where it's going to be. But there are a number of items that they're looking into within that roadway design, mainly vertical. So, there could be a several inch change, in that roadway in a lot of places, just due to the pavement gets built up over the years with overlays, and they're looking at taking that down to a point where they can restore the reveals that they need on these curves. So for us to start looking at where we need to set the sidewalk, elevationally, we really need to know where that road's going to be. Otherwise, it's sort of a fool's errand. We're really putting the cart before the horse there. And again, it doesn't do anything for us to design this thing until the road's built. We can do that design in a matter of a month, probably. And they're looking at essentially a year for their final sort of design push on the road. So it's not a critical path item, and you're not going to want to go build that sidewalk before you build the road. So that's not going to buy you anything. If you built that sidewalk, then the road's going to end up causing issues when they do design and build that.
So Maine DOT is looking at basically bringing it down to the base, is that correct?
It varies, depending on the section of road. They were looking at either a very narrow grind. In some cases, they were even considering coming down and taking concrete out, as I recall. Not only that, but there's a lot of drainage considerations that they're looking at relative to installing new catch basins and closed drainage systems, where open drainage systems need to go. So that all really works hand in hand with where that sidewalk is.
It's going to be a massive project when it's done. It'll be wonderful, but it's just taking a long time.
Oh, it's going to be a mess.
When it gets done, it will be super good.
And it'll be good when it's done.
Traffic detours all over the place.
All right, anybody else have any other questions? About anybody that's joined us online tonight, do you have any questions? Alright, not seeing any. Counselors, are we ready to vote on this?
And this is just voting to write the letter, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All those in favor of resolution 20-67, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that will pass. And we finally arrive at resolution 20-68.
Resolution 20-68, resolved that the town council act as necessary due to the civil emergency regarding Pittsfield Park.
Counselors, look for a motion.
Move we adopt resolution 20-68.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Catherine, do you want to fill us in on what our...
I shall. All right, we've had all kinds of phone calls and requests and items, and I think to get down to the very basics, the EMA director, the health officer, and myself have talked, and we talked about how the reservations for the parks, and that we would propose that all park activity or events in which the park is being reserved for a specific group, that there be a written plan that can be bullets, but basically has to meet the requirements of the CDC and the governor's proclamations and orders, and then signed off by the EMA director. So that is the simple resolution to all this. And so what you're talking about is many towns have cut off their parks and their schools and everything. And so ours are open, and we have recreation programs. At the last meeting, you voted to approve a number of recreation programs for use in the parks, specifically Hawthorne, but just in general, at the parks, in which the residents, being Pittsfield and the remainder of the school district, Detroit and Burnham, would be part of the registrations. We would be taking registrations for the recreation programs from all the other towns, which normally it started out, we used to always just have the 3 towns. But then over the years, many people come into work, and people in the surrounding area. We have a great recreation program. We have massive parks. So we take people from everywhere. So that got limited this year. And so then citizens and counselors started calling in that they saw other people playing games, students from other towns at the parks. And so this then got discussed on what we can and cannot do. And so that's why we're here this evening. So in general, your parks are open to the public, so they're open to all public. So we checked on the funding for the parks because we have land and water conservation grants. And so in the 1970s and 1990s, you got grant funding from Anson Park. And then when I arrived in 2000, we got all kinds of grants for all the other parks. So in calling the state and the federal government, and I knew the answer to this, but I double checked on it, we have to have the parks open to everyone. So in doing that, that doesn't mean that you have to reserve for everyone. But if you don't reserve for everyone, that's something you'd have to decide if that means the parks are open or not. And so, you know, there's legal questions on this. There's also questions on the fact that people come here from all around to enjoy the parks. And so that's sort of the discussion that you would have this evening if you did want to do some limitations. But the EMA director, the health officer, and I have talked about this, and any reservations for activity in the parks, we would propose that for those events and activities, there'd be a written plan. That can be just bullets, but it has to meet the requirements of the CDC and the governor's proclamation or orders signed off on by the EMA director.
And didn't you mention a waiver also?
For the recreation program, we have a COVID-19 waiver.
What about for the people that use
What
the
about?
parks?
Okay, if you wanted to have the people that are involved in the events and activities at the park sign a waiver, we can make that a requirement of the plan.
I think that's a good idea.
That might be your compromise.
I don't think we need that. I mean,
What
we're
are
not
they waiting for?
organizing this.
Exactly.
We're not organizing
We're
it.
not in charge of the organization of this.
Okay,
Why should
one
we
at a
require
time here. I know that this is an emotional issue.
Because it's time property.
No, I don't
This
think it's
is for
necessary.
federal dollars.
Yeah.
This goes down.
Well, first of all, you guys all have to understand this. In the state of Maine, anybody can sign a waiver.
You
But
don't
you
have to
cannot,
make
you
it-
cannot waive
It's-
your personal liability in the state of Maine.
Yeah.
I
Cannot
was-
what?
You cannot waive your personal liability. It's just like at the racetrack.
They can
They have
say-
drivers sign those things that say they sign a waiver. Well, the guy got killed at Unity, he still got awarded his spouse got awarded $1.2 million. I can't waive my personal liability, saying that I'm not gonna hold
Just a
the
waste of
town
time.
accountable if I get hurt.
Exactly.
Because it makes you guys feel good.
But
They
it
have a
doesn't-
waiver,
But
but
it
it doesn't,
doesn't
they
have
can
to
hold
do
up the
it.
court. It's just trying to deter people from suing you.
Amanda, your comments, please.
I'm what?
Your comments, please.
My comments, I do not agree with restricting any access to any of our public parks that have received federal funding. These are outdoor facilities where people can easily spread out. I, if you remember correctly, was also a fan of allowing our rec departments to do whatever they needed to do to allow our kids to participate. I don't think we are as a town, maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but we want to put out a welcoming vibe as a town. We want people to come here. We want people to spend their money here. We want people to move here. If we start this is a slippery slope. We start doing this, what am I gonna have to start signing stuff in order to go play at the tennis courts? If I decide, like my family's all getting together and we wanna play a pickup game, how is this stuff being enforced? I went to the park this weekend because Pete brought his concern to me and I wanted to see what the big hubbub was all about. These people were down there voluntarily doing the stuff that we're supposed to be doing. They were sitting spread apart in their family units or they were in their cars watching their kids play. It seems ridiculous to me to have so much oversight from our town. I will not vote to support anything that requires anybody to have to fill extra stuff out when we want to be welcoming in our town. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Tim, do you have anything?
I had a couple questions. I know that we had discussed with the rec committee, with the recreation, that they were going to have, like you said, like they wanted to play ball this year down at Manson Park, down at Hawthorne Park. And we have some say over that. Now, Manson Park, I believe, is run by the park trustees. Am I correct, Catherine?
That is correct.
Okay, so
Under the will.
So you have a little bit of a different set of circumstances and rules down there than you may have at this park, because the town doesn't actually run it, correct?
There are different rules there,
Okay.
yes.
I think that it's a slippery slope, like she says, and I agree with her up to a certain point, because they have federal funding for some of this stuff. However, the governor and the CDC has said that we have to do the distancing, we have to do this and be in compliance. That's why we have Vernon and we have Donnie. I think if it's an organized event, if they sign off on it and have a plan, then I think that, and they sign off on it, we shouldn't have, I understand what she's saying. You want to take your 5-year-old kid down to Manson Park and walk around, go on the teeter-totter, you shouldn't have to have a great big wave.
Actually, technically, you're not allowed to use the
Well, you know what I
playground
mean.
equipment.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not what it's made for.
No.
The recreation we organize and we.
I'm not talking about our
Right.
rec department that we already
But down
voted
in
on.
the parks, we don't really, as far as that goes, you can't really restrict them because under the freedom of access, it's one of those things, but things that, like Timmy says, if you're organizing something, if they're gonna have
An
a Babe
organized
Ruth
event.
League down to Manson Park, if they're gonna be down there every Tuesday and Thursday night and they're gonna be having a game, well, that's an organized series
But
of
we've
events.
never required those forms before,
Can,
ever.
can I speak just for a second? Just to give you, I'm Sonny Spratt, I'm the general manager of Varney Chevrolet. We have a travel team, a couple of teams that we asked Paul if we could use the facility. Because of the state of the affairs that they're in, we have to follow the same CDC rules and guidelines from her. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize the kids playing ball. Now on that, I talked to him. We've got some dates. We're good. We're treating the field better than it's been treated before. We actually put a porta potty down there and leaving it for you guys, for the public to use for the time that we're going to be using this. We're fully insured. Everybody on my team has signed a waiver for the COVID. These are families who, if their kid's sick, it's not going to come. We've only been practicing a couple of days a week, 2 or 3, and we've had a couple of games. Now, I've been down there quite a few times. My kid plays. A lot of people were happy to see, as they're walking around, that kids are playing baseball. We are doing everything that the governor says that we have to do to make sure that we are able to play. We have been practicing 2 to 3 times a week, which we would like to continue to do. But we actually have only 3 dates of baseball. The 21st, the 28th, and the 12th. So it's not like we're there, and we're not limiting our time. We're not taking away, nobody has the field. I've given him a schedule of when we're going to be, and if there was a problem, we would move it to do that. There is another team that he's allowed to practice and play, which they contacted me and we worked out the schedule. So of course the public is, the park is public, so we're working around it. So they do have a date on the 27th. But the question, every kid is signed off on the waiver already to us. We have insurance. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for everybody to use it. And we're also trying to, we've actually got the ropes out from it and extended the dugout so that everybody can be 6 feet apart. If they're not, then they have to have a mask on. But it's such a big field that we can actually follow it to the T, because we want to continue on with baseball. Any questions? I mean, at the very least, if I would maybe limit our practice time to maybe twice a week, and then just the games on the 21st, 27th, 28th, and 12th.
I don't think that's
But-
necessary.
But we would, it's a 14U and a 13U travel team. The parents, if you were there on the weekend, you were there. Everybody was away in park, and they sat in their car, and the people walked around, and it didn't interfere with anything. And as I know, as of right now, there isn't anything that would be there. MCI isn't playing. There isn't anybody scheduled. But if there was, we would try to accommodate and work with somebody from the town. If you have any questions, I'll be here to just to listen.
Tim, I'm gonna go back to Tim just so he can finish his
Okay,
comments.
my thinking is, you've done very well, you figured out, all your distancing and all that stuff. What we're trying to do is make sure that we're in compliance with, this is the governor that put this out, the CDC, not us. And they get mad at us town people, but we're just trying to do what the governor and the state has, that's why Donnie is in the position he's in, and Vernon's in the position he's in. In a case like yours, how hard would it be to go down there and take a look at it, sign off on it? If it meets all the guidelines and you guys are satisfied based on your professional training in this area, then we're covered all the way around.
I think it's not a big deal for us to go look at that. And
It could be a bullet list of.
I think one of my partners has a bullet list of what we're supposed to be in compliance that I could email over.
the bottom line is that the people running this are adults. The people watching it are adults. It's about time we held people responsible for what they do.
Absolutely.
Well, the only issue I have is he said if this is kids, adults can do what they want, but if it's kids in this travel team, you guys have limited our recreation program from not traveling. So do you have people traveling from other towns coming here to play?
We have some, yes.
Because that was one of the things that's real sketchy in the governor's thing that said about.
Yes and no. So
Right.
our concern, I think we need to separate our concerns about our rec department that the town is running. Those concerns need to be totally separate
From this.
issue.
This is his problem.
This
down
is
in the
his
park.
problem.
This is
He
his
has
problem, the whole
to
damn
make
thing.
sure that
Yeah.
those rules are being fulfilled, and it sounds like he is. We have checks and balances in the form of Donnie and Bernard to make sure that those things are being done. It's a public park. I, for one, would like to see the park used more and opened up to more items to be able to be down there and not have
It's
it
a
less
big enough
restricted.
park to have a lot of
It's a
stuff.
huge park, and I'm sure that the original intent was to have that park full of people. Obviously, we have to do that in a safe way right now, but I totally agree with Amanda that we want to be welcoming people here. My hope is that all those families that are coming are stopping at our gas station, are going to stop and get some takeout, or going to stop here or there, or maybe be like, hey, this is a beautiful park. I wish we lived here in Pittsfield. I think that we do need to be more welcoming to our businesses. We need to be more welcoming to our visitors. And our parks are one way that we can do that. And legally, federal funding, we got to keep it open. So I think if the Manson Park Board is scheduling things in a way that is not overlapping and that the teams can work within those schedules and they're making it work, I don't think that we have culpability as far as how they're organizing their groups.
Exactly.
We have culpability when we're organizing it.
Right.
This is like Donnie said, this is his problem. I mean, he's got it all figured out and they're playing and they're doing it. So
Right,
I
it's
don't
our
have a problem
insurance.
with it.
Heather, if I
Can
could
we-
ask
I
just
just
a
wanna
quick
make sure
question.
that everybody has a chance to say.
Yeah,
I'll
but-
come back around to you.
My biggest thing is just the why, look, he's a grown adult, he knows how to do this. The
Yeah.
bottom line is, you guys are the set of checks and balances, they put a plan out, you look at it, you agree on it, if he doesn't follow the plan, that's on them now. Our liability is through as a town, we did what we tried, we did our due diligence, that's all this is, it's just due diligence. Maybe it's, some people will say it's a little overkill, well, you know what, if something happens and somebody tries to come back, guess what? We've got our bases covered as town council members and as town employees. That's all that is. I'm not trying to make it worse. Nothing bothers me any more than all this bureaucratic nonsense all the time. You ought to be able to go down, take your kid down, and go down, have a picnic down by the river if you want, or whatever. But an organized thing, like in Hawthorne and different places like that.
Well, it's just like Hathaway Park, me and Bernard talked. I went down the other night, they had cars parked all the way around Hathaway Park, all around the block. You had adults that were not adhering to the social distancing. They were shaking hands and
Yeah.
rubbing each other's backs, whatever, but realistically, they're adults. It's personal responsibility, not liability. And the other thing is what are we gonna do about it?
Great.
Nothing.
What can we do? It's not enforceable. Vernon said you can't enforce it. How are you gonna enforce it?
All you can do is look at the plan, say, yep, that looks good.
But we can protect our kids. Like you said, these guys,
These guys, that's
they're in
different.
charge of protecting themselves.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Matt.
I see no problem with it. It seems like everything's organized, well planned out. I see no issue with that.
Okay, Deborah?
I see no problem with this, it's under control, I agree with the EMA director, and I would like us to stop this conversation and have a vote. We're all saying the same thing.
I would like to hear from Pete, because we haven't
Oh,
had
okay,
Pete talk
sorry.
yet. And then we'll see if anybody online has anything to say, because we haven't done that yet.
So is there somebody here from the
Manson Park?
Manson Park?
Yeah,
That'd be
Paul
Mr.
Bertrand.
Paul Bertrand.
Mr. Bertrand? So what's the other team that's been coming down that you're aware of?
Well, that's, nobody's.
There's three.
It's in northern New England, right? Northern New England?
Well, it's northern New England, but because of COVID, it's only Maine.
Right, but the issue that I see is now that if this becomes an open thing, all the other towns are closing their parks down, so every town is gonna be coming.
Actually, the season only goes to July 12th.
Yeah.
They've already got the rules in place.
Okay.
Yep, I can't imagine that they would, up until we had a game, a couple of people came and wanted to call and see if they could use it. But now everybody's fields are opened up and they're in place to play.
But that's with kids, that's not
It's
the
not-
adult one that you're talking about.
No, I'm talking kid, mine's kids.
No, yeah, but yours is the Barney one.
Yeah, which is kids.
Right.
14U and 13U.
The phone's been busy with other towns who wanna come and
No,
use
mine
the
is
field.
kids, not adults.
But yeah, it's kids, I don't even know if the high school kids are.
They're freshmen,
Yeah.
turning, going into
Got a
freshman.
call today, the team from Newport, they wanna come over and practice and play a bit. I said, I don't know what everybody's schedule is.
Yeah.
And you could go 24/7 if you wanted to, once everybody knows about it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, once
Yeah.
once it goes out there.
But we can control that, it's busy.
Right. I mean, if you got a team coming from Cumberland County and Scotland County right now, I'd be a little concerned.
Yeah.
Because they still have they still have infections going on. They probably shouldn't be coming up here and using our park because
I think
they
we
can't play in their area.
Yeah, I think we're pretty well,
But you guys are pretty
well booked as far as
Okay, it's not an issue.
These other towns are also, Brewer opened everything up yesterday, Bangor is planning on opening it next week,
Orno and Old Town are opening up.
so.
Now they close theirs to travel.
Paul, did they give a reason why they were not playing
Well,
in the
they're open
COVID
to the
fields
local
or
areas,
Sure.
so they can't go out.
They
Hold
close
on.
theirs to travel. And
Paul?
Hold on, guys.
Hold on.
Okay,
She's
one
the mayor's
person.
asking a question.
she's talking, he's talking.
Paul, did
No.
they give you a reason why they were not able to practice or play in Newport and why they were looking to come to our
The
fields?
schools are closed. All the schools everywhere, right, in
Right.
Pittsfield?
Yeah.
So they don't have a town field
No.
to play on because
No.
it's at the school, it's not
Nobody,
accessible to
the only
them.
other one is China or something?
China and Dexter wouldn't let us play, but it's a softball field.
We're a
Oh, so
select
it's kind of difficult to do that on there.
When you're with an elite baseball team that needs a mound and
Yeah,
these,
you don't want to be on a softball
the
field.
kids pay a lot of money to play.
Too short. Too short.
All
So,
right, now the question, I do have a question. Somebody wants to have a wedding down there. Now what do we do?
they need to meet the state guidelines, which is, there's a limit
So
on
where
how
do they
many
get that
people
information?
you can have in the
Yeah,
guide.
it's all right
It's
there.
online.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, it's all over,
They can also find it online.
online, just go on to the
I mean,
CDC and then.
Go to the
site
state of
and then
Maine website.
there's- List them all.
There's
Like you
not
said,
guidance
people
for
have
large
huge ones.
events.
Yeah. I mean,
Paul,
these adults,
if we-
kids are gonna do what the adults tell them.
So Paul, if you have questions about what should be allowed for an event at the park based on the size or the number of people, Bernard or Donnie could probably answer those
Yeah.
questions and also help you give people information of, if you have to say no because they want a 500-person wedding reception or something, you know, they can back you up with the information that you need in order to do that for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Catherine, I have a quick question. We had talked briefly about doing the signage down there, correct?
Yes,
We're still doing that, right?
yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So
and that item is
if we're
coming up.
doing that, then we've done the action that we need to do, so we don't need to do anything further.
All right,
Correct.
that's sort of a two-pronged question. The signage that we have now is signage that has to be replaced because it's just laminated or in sheet protectors. So as part of the grant application that we'll apply for, then we can have proper signing.
But we do have it marked that people have to adhere to CDC
Yes.
guidelines
Oh, yes.
and,
Social distancing.
so we're telling people to do that already. So we don't need further, because here's my concern, if we're doing this for a baseball team thing, what about Woody is down there at noon? Are we now going to require him to do it? He doesn't know exactly how many people will show up every day, he's a walk-in thing. Same thing with MCI's training program. And they are spacing out for these training programs, but they don't know how many students will be coming to join that. And Woody's program doesn't cater just to Pittsfield, Burnham, and Detroit. I think his wife does one first thing in the morning. I mean, are we going to make all of these people do this if we enact something? I just don't think it's realistic.
All right, so
Okay.
where is Woody going to?
He's down at Nansen Park too, right? He's utilizing, yeah, 12 to 12:30. He's
All
the
right.
MCI football coach.
Okay, so one question for Paul, not to put you on the spot, do you, as part of the effort for the other 6 parks, if we're going to have organized events and activities, we're going to ask them to put together a written plan that can be bullets and a diagram that meets the requirements of the CDC and governor's proclamations and orders signed off by the EMA director. I mean, we have concerts coming, all kinds of items. Do you want to be a part of that, or do you want to be separate?
Say separate.
That's a good question. No, I don't want to be part of it. But, you know, I don't know.
so Paul, if you're looking for guidance as to whether to have,
I don't have any problem with it at all.
Okay.
I'm fine.
so you're good, so you're
It's
the,
here that's got the problem. No.
Don't look at me.
Well, what brought this up in the beginning?
all right, Paul, so you're not looking for guidance from the town as far as what to allow, what not to allow in the
Well,
park?
I guess I would for a wedding or some stuff, but
I mean, if you have questions, you can.
all I gotta do is ask you guys.
All right, so you
Yeah.
know where to go for information. So
Yeah.
you would not benefit from what Catherine's talking about and requiring that.
No.
No.
I think that for any organized information, any organized programming that we're doing, we need to follow all those things. But if there's organizations coming in and using it, they should already have that in place. And I don't think
And
that
we
we should
don't need to
require
take
that. I mean, that's their
responsibility
own
for that.
responsibility to
Exactly.
do that, and they're taking care of their kids that are in those programs.
And if they're not doing it, we can't, like Donnie said, we can't be held liable.
Is there anyone online that has any comments to make about, resolution 20-69, no, 68 regarding the, parks use?
That would do it.
That's what she put in place.
Yep.
Alright, I'm not seeing anything. Counselors, any last comments before we vote on this?
I'd like to know what we're. I was just gonna ask the
Whether
same
we need
thing.
to take any action or not, I believe.
So I need to know, am I voting affirmative to take action or negative to not take it? I just need to know, are we voting to take action?
Just let it die.
What it says
Or let
is
it die.
act as necessary.
Right, but I want to make a motion to not act, because we already have things in place.
So
No.
moved. Do you have a second for that?
We can't just ignore this is on the floor right now.
No, I'm putting a motion forward because we have an act as necessary. My motion under the act as necessary is to not pursue any further action. That's my motion.
Second.
So if somebody wants to get married
Okay.
over to Stein Park, they can just go over and get married in Stein Park.
Well, if they're having
This is
food and
not
stuff
how you
like
do
that, don't
things
they have to
legally.
fill out something anyway?
I would
This
think
is
that
not
you better
how
have
you
a
do
plan.
things
We need a
legally.
plan.
Again, it's our,
There's a
Deborah,
motion
hold
on.
on a minute. We have a motion on the floor to act as necessary.
Correct.
We don't have, we need
There
we need
needs-
to amend that motion in some way to
Correct.
have the action.
That's what I just
Amanda
did.
has made that motion to not have any further action. Matt has seconded it. That is where we are right now.
That's the amended motion.
Now
So
we
she
need to
amended the
vote on the
motion, so
amendment.
we're gonna vote to accept that amendment to take no further action at this time regarding the parks.
I got a question.
Yes.
Before we vote on this,
We're just
I want,
accepting the motion.
I know that I'm an old man and I'm pretty thick-headed this day and age, so can we please explain exactly, if we vote that as amended, what that entails? And how, does it mean we take no action as a council whatsoever? And if we don't take any action as a council, I'd like to have it addressed like Donnie just brought up, like if somebody wants to have something in Stein Park, somebody wants to have something there, how do we go about doing that as a council that will not legally liable? That's all I'm asking, I just wanna know. We
Why
can't
does it
control
matter which
anything.
park it's in?
Because of space.
It doesn't matter. It's still a number of people
There are-
per the CDC.
Yeah, the state already has
So it's
guidelines.
the same rules no matter which park you're in.
So if that happens, we won't have, if we vote this in, we don't have to do anything as a council. That's totally on them.
Right now,
Okay.
the amendment on the floor is Amanda amended the resolution to take no action, or that there's no further action necessary. Matt has seconded that.
Okay.
We need to vote to accept that amendment,
And
then
we can
technically
discuss
talk
it.
about it,
Okay.
and then vote on it.
Okay, I just wanted,
Those
because
are
there's a
our
lot
steps that
of,
we're
there's a lot of
doing.
people that have been talking back and forth.
Yes,
I just want to make it clear, that's all.
yep,
Okay? Just so that the public understands what we're doing.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, can we vote on this amendment?
Please.
Counselors, all those in favor of Amanda's amendment to take no action on resolution 20-68, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, we need to do a roll call. Matt,
Aye.
Tim,
Nay.
Amanda,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
hmm?
Aye.
Aye. Deb,
Nay.
and I'm gonna vote aye.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, the ayes carry.
So if something comes up in the future,
This is just to
and we're
accept the
still
amendment.
under,
We're
I
just
think
accepting the
accepting the
amendment.
right,
So, Amanda's proposing we do no further actions regarding limitations or requirements at the park.
We still have to vote the amendment in
Yeah,
for even
correct.
We were just accepting the
the
amended
language.
language.
Okay, now we can
Deborah.
talk
Thank you.
about it.
Would you like to speak to the amended resolution?
I think that we should leave ourselves an avenue to take action if necessary. I don't see what's so complicated about this very simple sentence, okay? It doesn't take a genius to understand what that sentence says. We don't have to take any action unless necessary. And there could be something down the road that we have to act on. And by voting on this amendment, you're saying we're not gonna act on anything. So it's a free-for-all out there and we have no control.
It's
That's
something-
exactly legally what we would
Wait,
be saying.
I'm confused. Hold on a minute. So,
No,
Deborah, this is for tonight, our resolution is to act as necessary. The amendment that carried and is on the floor that we're discussing is that tonight, we do not feel there's any action that we need to take. That does not
That-
preclude that 3 weeks from now, we need to take some type of action, and a motion like this might come onto the floor again with a specific action that somebody wants us to take. This doesn't mean we can never address it again. This just means that we're saying tonight, we don't think we need to do anything.
We had this
I-
similar thing 2 weeks
Amanda.
ago, Deb, where we had to take action as necessary, and we decided what action to take. My suggestion is not saying that we never take action. It's right now, I feel we don't need to take any further action because we have state and CDC guidelines. That is what,
Whatever.
last time we amended it to take the action that we had all agreed on.
when we
This
were
time,
talking
I'm
about
saying-
our teams playing games.
No, it had nothing to do with that, because that wasn't act as necessary. I'm talking about something totally separate. For this case, I'm saying, tonight, we don't need to take any further action.
Fine, whatever.
So
Let's
what
just
would-
move it along here.
Yeah, I
Because
understand.
it's 8:30 and we spent an hour discussing this, which is ridiculous.
Well, I'm trying to move it along.
All right, so can I say something?
Yes, please.
So what this motion would do is that anyone that wants to come in to utilize the parks for any organized event, to get the keys for everything, will just get the keys.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what it says.
That's exactly what that says.
Doesn't it go through Paul? Doesn't everything?
Well, that's
No.
where he's excluded
Oh,
from this.
you're a
We're
different
talking
one.
about our
Okay.
other
We've
parks.
got 6 other parks.
Oh, okay. So am I
Manson
okay?
Park is fine.
Am I
If you
okay
want
to
to
go?
leave, you can
Oh.
go.
Yeah, you're all set. You're all set.
We've accepted Manson Park.
All right. Thank you, John.
So Catherine, am I wrong in what I'm thinking? If we make this amendment part of this resolution? That the people can just walk in, get the keys, they don't have to tell us anything, they don't have to.
What's
We
stopping
won't
them just
know
showing up
anything
playing
about it?
baseball right now?
Well,
What's
that's-
stopping me from just saying, getting a bunch of my buddies going over and playing
Nothing.
baseball? Exactly. So what's a piece of paper gonna do without stopping anybody? They're not
You
gonna
can't
call the
enforce
cops
it.
and arrest you for playing baseball on our field. So why
Well,
bother?
There's many organized events such as concerts that will have hundreds of people, there's wedding receptions.
and we need to act as
there's some
necessary
children's
regarding
games.
those events.
Hold on a minute.
Church
Catherine's talking.
events. There's many actions, items that'll be coming up. We have church events that usually take place, fun days with hundreds of children from many towns. We have series of concerts that would like to go forward. Wedding receptions, they will reserve the gazebo for weddings and activities, and I'm not so concerned about that, but you have larger events, and we really should have they should sign up, they should list out the CDC items so that we understand and they understand what they're gonna do.
I
And
think
that's all we're asking.
If we have signage at all of the parks, which it sounds like we're going to be ordering signage for the parks, correct? That's what Amanda asked about?
We've made signs in the interim, but we will be ordering signs
Okay.
under the grant.
So we're going to have signage saying that, just generic, that people need to follow current CDC guidelines, because that changes all the time, and will probably change going forward. So we don't want to be replacing signs all the time, so current CDC guidelines. I don't think that we can separate our parks and say, if you want to participate in something at this park, you have to jump through 6 hoops. If you want to do it at this park, you have to jump through 8 hoops. As far as keys and things like that, we shouldn't be having the facilities open. So restrooms and things like that, they're not, the restrooms and the snack shack are not open to our Little League or other organized things. So we wouldn't be handing keys out for that. So what keys are you talking about as
We
far
would
as
have
using
keys
facilities?
for electrical, keys for the lights. They have already requested the bathroom keys for concerts. In order to run these events, they're gonna have to have the proper keys.
Well, our bathrooms are not open to Little League games, so they shouldn't be open.
It ought to be.
They ought to be, is right.
They should be, but we don't have public bathrooms in our town office right now.
Sure you do.
Yeah, you do.
People can use them. We just have had the state, because people are running around the building, the downstairs is closed. But yes, the public bathrooms are here and people have been using them.
Well, we could make an order to close the public restrooms. I mean, gas stations are closing their public restrooms. So if that's a concern of people, that's an easy fix. But I really don't see, I mean, I could decide tomorrow I want to have a wedding up at the gazebo and just use it. I'm a taxpayer, I should be allowed to use it. I'm not going to, by the way, but, I mean, I could. I really don't like the idea of restricting the use of our facilities. I would assume, Catherine, that you would ask questions before handing out keys. So why don't, if somebody approaches to use those facilities, and I'm not talking about the gazebo or the open park area, but if they're going to be using town facilities, you hand them a thing that says these are the current CDC guidelines, and then we're educating them, but we're not restricting them.
I would assume that we also give them expectations of using our facilities.
I mean, there's
And
got
that
to
could
be
be part
something
of
in
it.
place. I can't imagine you just willy-nilly hand out the keys.
And all of that would fall under acting as necessary.
No, I mean, I'm saying we already have stuff in place. Catherine, you don't just hand out the keys to anybody, right?
We have a one-page form,
Yeah. So we already have stuff in place. It's not,
which doesn't address any of this, because it
Further
didn't
action.
exist.
The COVID stuff, you mean?
Correct.
Page.
But everybody has to do that under CDC guidelines
Correct.
everywhere.
Right.
It goes back to personal responsibility that Bernard was talking about.
Mhm.
You know, we have our concert series coming up, okay? It is personal responsibility for people attending an event to maintain proper physical distancing and act appropriately in this day and age that we are in. If somebody's not doing that, the concert organizers cannot bodily pick them up and kick them out of the park. You know, they can't enforce that. Nobody can
certainly can.
enforce that.
They certainly
Why
can.
can't you?
They-
With a $500 fine and 6 months in
We're still
jail.
under
I
the
want the
governor's
jam
order.
laws to do that.
Well, I'm saying it's already,
No.
the governor's already done that, like Bernard said, it's a $500 fine and 6 months in jail.
Okay, so it's not something that we need to deal with. They can call, is it the civil order, do they call the police if people are
Yes.
doing things they're not supposed to? So, like Amanda said, there are rules in place and there's processes in place.
we don't need to add to it.
My only thought process was, okay, if you're gonna, like, say, somebody comes to, Paul and says, listen, I wanna have a wedding down in Manson Park, and I got my social distancing down, and I'm gonna show the safety officers what I have for a plan, they're gonna sign off on. Now, if they completely fill that plan in the trash can, and they go do what they wanna do, that's on them. But we did our due diligence to
We're not
follow
gonna
the
have anything to do
CDC.
with what goes on down there.
Huh?
We're not gonna have anything to do with what goes
No,
on.
but I'm using that as an example.
Yeah.
Like, it could be Manson Park, it could be Stein Park.
Yeah.
But that way, we've done everything we can as a council and as a town entity to make sure this gets followed. If they don't follow, that's on them, they're grown adults. But at least we did everything we could do, because the governor's the one that put this order on, not us. I mean, we're just trying to do what we're supposed to do here. And if we don't do it, well, that's fine. But if they don't do it, that's on them as far as I'm concerned. We showed our liability, we did everything we could do to prevent liability if something happens.
So what will have happened is the group that is going to lease or use the facility, reserve it, whatever word you want, will have been made responsible to go to the guidelines, which we can provide them copies of, look it over and say, yes, I'll do these items.
And then it's up to them.
Yeah, they would have a plan. That's all that the EMA director and the health officer and I wanted, is that they would have a written plan. It can just be some bullets.
That's for an organized event.
Correct.
That's not for the 25-year-old woman that takes her 5-year-old down by the lake,
Of
down
course
there.
not, no. Or if a group, you know,
Right.
5
I mean,
people show
that's-
up to play games, it's
And that's
not.
one of the only concerns I have, is that now if you have no restrictions,
Yeah.
if you got a busload of people that can't get married in Coburn Park and Skowhegan or any of the other parks that are closed, can bus them up from another county and say, well, there's nothing you guys can do, this is open park, we're gonna set up here, and we're gonna, well, you need to meet the social distance, and again, some education should be in that loop. But what are you guys planning? Well, it's none of your business, it's an open park, we'll do what we want. The next thing you're gonna know, they're gonna be pitching tents, and be careful what you wish for. But again, the normal stuff you guys are talking about, people wanna come from Newport and enjoy the park and use the springs, walk the river, walk the trails, I don't have a problem. But when you're doing something organized, is what you gotta worry about.
You gotta go through us.
But if they,
Well, your park, you go through the park committee, you guys have a meeting process, but it's the same thing.
I'm leaving out Manson Park because they're
Right.
exempt from this anyway,
Right.
but we have a boot camp thing that happens every once in a while up at Hathaway.
Yeah.
I drive by it in the morning when I would go up. I think it's ridiculous to go push a tire at 6:30 in the morning, but people enjoy doing that. Are we going to require them to do this?
No, because it's not an organized event.
It is organized. It's an organized exercise
All they
event
have
that
to do is tell
happens
us what
every
they're
week.
doing, because what happens if you've got, Deeper Life Assembly that Saturday mornings decide that they're gonna have 32 or 40 kids there, they're gonna have one of their annual outings, and then you got somebody else who's doing, that's got 50 people showing up at the park at the same time and do the same thing, now you got 500 people in Hathaway Park.
So
There's
do
no-
they, wait a minute,
We
do
have to have
they,
some order here.
I
do
really
all
like
of
to see
these-
that be an issue.
hold on a second, do all of these groups now have to check in before they bring kids to Hawthorne Park, or they bring kids to Stein Park?
If they're having an organized event, yes.
Yes.
So if
They're
they wanna
supposed
take
to,
kids for a
Because they
picnic,
get a permit.
if they wanna take kids for a picnic,
No, no.
do they need to bring, and
No,
they're gonna
we-
bring
we-
a busload of kids down for a picnic and stop at the park, do they have to get a permit? to do
No,
that?
they shouldn't have to.
So if somebody's driving through and they have, say, a baseball team or something, and they're driving through and they're like, hey, let's get out here, let's stretch our legs,
eat
let's
lunch.
sit and have lunch.
Yeah.
Do they need to have,
No, it's not an
okay,
organized
who's
event.
making sure it's a whole group of people all coming at
Yep.
once? What's the difference between that, a church group coming, or a wedding coming, or anything? I think this whole thing is just ridiculous. People that are coming, organizing group events, they need to be responsible for their group and what they're doing. We do not need to be responsible for that. It's a public place, and we can't be saying, if we're not gonna do it for one park, we're not gonna do it for all the parks.
And who's gonna
I
go
don't
around
think we
checking to
can
make
pick and
sure?
choose which park we're doing it for.
If we want a free-for-all, we can have it. Yeah. Okay. Bernard, Donnie, and I will do as you direct.
All right, counselors, we need to vote. We have an amended resolution that we do not take any action necessary, that passed as a amended resolution. So we are now voting on that amended resolution, whether or not it ought to pass. Does any counselors have any further say about this before we vote?
And that's for this time, we could add things as they come up.
Correct.
Okay?
But it'll be after the fact.
Yeah.
It'll be as it's happening or after the fact. Yeah.
Do we have anybody in the audience who has anything to say?
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment on this amended resolution? Nope. Counselors, please vote aye if you would like to pass the amended resolution. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we'll take a roll. Matt,
Aye.
Tim,
Nay.
Amanda,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
Deb,
Nay.
and I shall vote aye. That passes 4-2.
As amended.
We're on to resolution 20-69.
Resolved that the town council sign the warrant and notice of election to call the MSAD 53 budget validation referendum to be voted on July 14, 2020.
Look for a motion.
Move we adopt resolution 20-69.
Second. Thank you, Jeff. Councilors, any discussion on the warrant and notice of election? Thank you, gentlemen. We just lost our entire audience, so anybody online want to comment on our election warrant? Not seeing any comments. Councilors, let's vote on it. Resolution 20-69. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Resolution 20-70.
Resolved that the town council authorize the town manager to execute the 2020 Project Canopy Agreement for Pittsfield's Gateway to the Downtown along Main Street Phase 2.
Move we adopt resolution 20-70.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Councilors, any discussion resolving the Project Canopy Agreement? This would be Phase 2.
Just putting out more trees.
Yep.
More trees.
This is more trees. So our first phase had 20 trees, and we had received an award, which is great. And I received an extension on that because of the Main Street project. So Project Canopy Agriculture Department was fully understanding and extended that. So this is a new grant for 10 more trees because people are very excited about the right-of-way is going to be cleaned out. There are a lot of old trees that have fallen down and been taken down over time. And so this is a way to refresh them. It'll take a long time for the trees to grow, but these are sturdy trees, 3-inch diameter. They're very expensive trees, so they will live, and they need to live for years. So this is our second project. This one doesn't need to be done as the timetable until June 30th of next year. However, we would do the two projects together.
Are you looking to, well, wait a minute. If we can't do the Phase 1 until after the sidewalk and the road and everything is done?
Well, they're supposed to have their alignments done in July, so we may be able to do both phases once we get past July.
We're gonna wait till fall to plant trees though, right?
Well, that may be what's gonna happen.
We
Because
should
I-
not plant trees in July.
No. Or
It
August.
just won't go well. I mean, to plant them in the fall, get them when they're dormant and plant them in the fall. They'll have a much more survivability.
Well, the plans will be done in July, that doesn't mean they're gonna sign off on them. So we would plan to do this by September 30th.
Planting them by September 30th.
Yes.
Is that a requirement?
It is of the extension, so we need to do both of them together to be efficient.
Oh, Phase 1 was extended to the end of September?
Correct, yes.
Oh,
And
that's
they
a
never
bummer. I wish I could have
extended,
extended
so-
that one more month.
Yeah. But of course, at the time we got the extension, we didn't realize that their timing was pushed back even further than what they had sent in the email. This is the way it is, so.
Are we able to ask them if we can have another month?
At this point, we need to follow this along and see how it goes. The agriculture department was very understanding and sort of laughed about when I mentioned MDOT and, this has happened before.
Right.
Yeah. So at this point, we have till September 30th, that is the longest we can get at this point for an extension on number 1. And then we'll see how this goes and try to get this done by September 30th.
Okay. When did we receive the extension on Phase 1?
A couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So we could try for another one as we get further into the summer?
We'll see how it goes. They were very understanding. I could get something from the state if I had to.
I, like Heather, am also very concerned about planting those trees in the hottest months.
Okay, there's no way we're planting them in July. It's recommended against planting in July and August until you get to the last week. So we don't plan to do that anyway. We have an extension until September 30th, so we plan to do them in
Well, even
September.
September's
Even
a rough.
September can be 90 degrees.
Yeah. That's why I was thinking, like, it would be nice if we had till the end of October.
Yeah.
Because then it'll be nice and cool.
Yeah, we don't have that,
Ish.
so.
Well, it's
And we
September's
have
when
to
we
be
get our
able to
second
get
summer.
the trees too. The nurseries don't always have the trees if you're too early in the year or too late in the year.
Mm.
Well, if we know we have the grant, we can always order the trees. But it's a matter of planting them, and, I mean, it's, whatever. Okay. Anybody else have any comments about tree planting, canopy grant? anyone, oh, we don't have anybody online anymore, okay.
They had enough.
The fun stuff is what they cared about.
Okay, counselors, let's vote on resolution 20-70 to accept this grant, or execute the grant. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That will pass. Resolution 20-71.
Resolution 20-71, resolved that the town council authorize the town manager, EMA director, and health officer to apply for COVID-19 grant opportunities not limited to the Keep Maine Healthy 2020 municipal COVID-19 awareness campaign to help keep Maine residents and visitors safe this summer and fall, to pay for town expenses in addressing COVID-19, and authorize the town manager and deputy treasurer to accept and expend such funds.
Move we adopt resolution 20-71.
Second.
Thank you. Counselors, any discussion?
I just want to say this is exciting. I'm glad to hear that.
It is exciting.
Yes.
So it will go from June 8th, so all the items when we got ready, and we're proactive, don't count for this. So June 8th on, after the June 1 opening date, everything will count until October 31st.
So like all of our signage that we're gonna put up in Plaster Parks with about social, physical distancing and all that?
Yes.
Does that mean the shields aren't covered? The plastic
No,
things?
no, they're
'Cause
not.
that was
covered.
done before.
It was before, we had to order
Hummer.
it before. And it's still not all here, but part of it is, so that's good. So at this point, there was a Zoom meeting that we watched, and this is being well promoted. They have limited amount of money. They're concentrating on the southern Maine towns because we have the most issues. That's understandable. So we're going to submit a reasonable amount of items in the hope that we'll be approved for a reasonable amount of items. But we'll calculate the amount of items that we need to get through October 31st, including the election in June.
Well, that's good, that's covered.
Yeah, it
In
it can be covered. We have to.
July.
July, excuse me. I've been moving that all around.
Well, it doesn't have that they moved
It's
it.
such an abnormal period.
Yeah, because it was June and then.
It was June.
Okay. Counselors, any more discussion about this item?
This is to look into the possibly obtaining the grant.
Pardon?
This is simply just to look into possibly obtaining the grant.
It has no match, so this is to apply for the grant and do it.
This is just authorization to apply for grants as they come up, rather than having to do an authorization every time a grant comes up. So if it has a short application window and we don't have meetings, then this allows them to go ahead and put in applications on our behalf. And then Catherine said if it's something that doesn't fit, then we can always decline to accept. I don't know why we would do that, but unless there are strings attached.
So this would come up to either go for it or.
So this particular one, the
Or is this-
COVID-19 grant, the healthy one, that has a 0% match, so it does not need to come back. There likely will be a FEMA one. There's been talk off and on. Our items that we've done do not fit under FEMA at this point.
Where do you get to see where the requirements are? Because I seen something in one of these where there was going to be requirements that our health officer is basically like a policeman for this COVID-19. So
Well,
that's where I'm. a little-
These are the requirements for this one. Now, everything's here,
Okay.
and they are being asked questions, and they're creating more regulations as they go along, because this has come up and they only had some information together. So they're answering a lot of questions, which will be online, and I can get you a copy of the answers if you'd like it. So the one item that is a requirement is that if there are complaints on businesses, somebody says somebody's not following the requirements, they're gonna have to call somebody, like the code officer, so we have to list somebody, but they're gonna call the code officer anyway, they already have, so this is
Is the
gonna
code
happen.
officer the best person we have to enforce that, or would it be Bernard or Donnie as our EMA and our health officer?
It would be Bernard, so what
Okay.
happens is when the call comes into the code officer, we would send it to
Okay.
Bernard, yeah.
Well, I thought I took it at when I was reading through. I kind of took it as they would be like tattletale into the CDC. This is the way I read it. But.
We're supposed, let me pull that up.
Well, they probably need to
understanding-
report, there's reportable instances, so I would expect that that's what our EMA would do. If there's things that they're required to report.
It says follow up on complaints received by municipality, tribe, or state licensing agency. Somebody could call the CDC, I suppose, but it's likely they're gonna call the town office. And this will include contacting or visiting the business or individual, educating them on COVID-19 guidance.
That would be Bernard's.
Give out
deal.
COVID-19.
Right.
If a business complains, if somebody complains about business right now, and they give it to Steve, he give it to Bernard, and
Yes.
Bernard will look in and see if there's any validity to it, if there was.
Yes, it would
And he
all
talked to
be
him, if there
fine.
wasn't, then he's.
So then, that language is that they would have to follow up if a resident or a business was referred to Maine CDC, not that Bernard would have to call the CDC.
No, Bernard, I doubt he would. That's not a requirement right now. That doesn't mean it might not be in the future, they're creating more requirements, but that's
Right
not
now-
one that was talked about on the Zoom today.
So to clarify, if somebody complains about a business not following CDC guidelines, they call the town office.
They have been.
Or they
yeah.
call the CO. The CO passes it off to Bernard because Bernard is the person that's in charge of that. Bernard goes and talks to them, and they still do not change the practices to come in line with the CDC guidance. Would Bernard then notify the state, and then the state would step in?
Well, I think after working with them, it's likely he would call the state.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where your policeman type mentality comes in, because there's a hierarchy there. You know, you start at your
Businesses
local,
can
and
lose
then
their
you work your way.
licenses for not following the governor's
Exactly,
guidelines.
right.
I think that would happen if we didn't get the grant, that would still happen.
Right. But I mean, that's Bernard's role, you know. There's certain diseases that are reportable, that if you go into a doctor's office with a certain disease, it's a reportable disease. And right now, COVID is a reportable disease. They don't have an option as to whether or not to report it to the CDC.
Right.
It has to be reported.
But so the process would be from the town office to Bernard, who goes to the business, who doesn't comply, he calls the state.
Yeah.
The state reports to the CDC, as well as dealing with that business.
Well, the state would be like the main CDC.
That's what they would call it.
Yeah.
They would call it
Okay.
CDC.
I don't know if they would call in the federal CDC for something, but I guess.
I think you're mostly talking about probably minor items here. So far, it's just been minor, so. People don't understand the regulations.
Right.
Some of the people, businesses that I've talked to, they're following what they say,
Yeah.
what they're told, because they've been told if they don't, they're gonna lose their license. Their state
It's happened.
license.
You know, until businesses comply, and then they
Exactly.
reissue the licenses. You know, and the state has the ability to do that.
Yep.
Did that answer your question, Pete?
Yeah.
Did it not allay your concerns, though?
Yeah.
So if-
What are your concerns?
You don't want our people to act as police officers.
Yeah.
Huh?
He doesn't want our
this
people to
waives
act as
our
police
ability,
officers.
because if you accept this grant, then you're accepting that you're gonna be a police officer.
Well,
I think
that's what the EMA director is supposed to be doing. That is his job.
To help the Nazis. So, I'll stop.
So I'm glad you're stopping, because
let's
I
move
think
on.
you're crossing a line there.
Yeah, I'm not crossing no lines.
I think you're crossing a line, and I think you're crossing a line. Any other concerns, councilors?
The only other item I would mention is this is broad, so if there is some other grant that shows up, we would let you know what it is, and then we'd apply for it. If we don't like it, we don't have to accept it.
Okay, so this will give us some flexibility
Yes.
on that.
Yeah, and not rushing to have an emergency meeting or a special meeting.
Okay. Councilors, anything else before we vote? Okay.
So that just means if there's something with a cash match, we could end up saying no.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of resolution 20-71, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we'll do a roll. Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
Pete?
Nay.
Deb?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. And that will pass 5-1. Resolution 20-72.
Resolution 20-72, resolved that the town council appoint members to fill the vacancies on the new Parks and Recreation Committee. And you have 3 applications before you for 3 positions.
I move we adopt resolution 20-72, appointing Jeremy Fennel, Amanda Mack, and Jennifer Saucier.
Second.
I hope I pronounced Jeremy's last name correctly.
We'll find out.
Any discussion, councilors?
I'm just glad people
Yeah.
signed up to be on the committee.
Yes, this is
These are
good.
names that I have not seen on other committee lists, so I think that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. Yep, this is good. So we'll get them organized so they'll have their first meeting and then they'll have fun.
Aye.
Matt?
Are we voting?
Catherine, will we get a report out from them after they've had their first meetings to see how they're planning on moving forward?
I think what we'll do is they probably won't know after the first meeting, but we'll have the minutes and we'll request that they meet here so people can watch and participate. We can do Zoom for them if they like.
Oh, that would be great.
I think we need to plan on doing Zoom for all of our committee meetings.
I agree.
Going forward, because people just don't feel comfortable coming out into rooms right now.
Oh, I
Well,
understand.
you can't get too many people in here if we all have to be 6 feet apart.
Right. All right, councilors, we have a slate of 3 candidates to add to our Parks and Rec Committee. All those in favor of adding those candidates as listed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. That brings us to our last item, which is an additional resolution 20-73.
We discussed this earlier when this was brought up.
All right, and I need to get it out here.
Item needed to meet governor's plan to reopen.
Hold on a minute, Catherine's gonna read it.
Right?
That's the one.
And that's,
Did you give away all your copies? Do you want
I
my
did.
copy, Catherine?
I did not, thank you. I almost did though.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yes. Resolution 20-73, resolved that the town council sign the request for extension of license for on-premise for Outland Farm Brewery at 1113 North Lancey Street, Suite 6 and 7, Pittsfield, Maine 04967, to allow temporary operations per the diagram to be submitted to the state to allow the business to fall under the July 1, 2020 opening under the governor's plan to reopen the state in place due to COVID-19 health crisis.
we adopt resolution 20-73.
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna pause us for a moment because Heather and Vaughn are having trouble getting into Zoom.
Okay, there's Vaughn is here.
You've got Vaughn on there.
I see just Vaughn. So Vaughn's on here as the landlord so that he can indicate his
Right.
permission.
I might just call Heather so that it might be a little faster.
And
Heather.
Heather Holland.
She's one of the owners.
I tried to unmute Vaughn, so he may have to unmute himself.
Hi. Hey, were you able to get onto Zoom?
Okay, there's Vaughn in here. You got Vaughn on there?
Yes. Do you want me to put you on speakerphone?
So Vaughn's on here.
Okay. Is it gonna mess things up if I put her on speakerphone?
Mute you. It's getting the echo.
Catherine, I think she's on there. Or, I'm
Yeah, I unmuted Vaughn, and Vaughn's on.
Vaughn, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Speak up, Vaughn, speak up.
Can you get closer to your mic, Vaughn?
Hi, hey, were you able to get on the?
He must have the broadcast playing too.
Alright, Heather?
Yep, we're here.
Okay, Heather and Mike are here.
Talking over there.
No, the issue is he's got our broadcast, which is a delayed thing, so he's gotta mute the broadcast happening.
Okay, all right, which it looks like he's done. Okay, we're all learning things.
Yes.
Okay, Vaughn, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, we can hear you.
Yes,
And
thank
Heather
you.
and Mike Holland, which are the business owners that are affected by this resolution, are on speakerphone. Hopefully everybody can hear that. So, where do you want to start with this? Do you want?
All right, so I can start very quickly.
Okay, Catherine's going to give a background.
All right, so we learned last evening there was an issue with a permit that needed to be addressed. So this permit normally would go on a special meeting agenda, but because it is to meet the governor's plan to reopen the state due to COVID-19, it's an emergency situation, so we're able to add it tonight. So the resolution will allow temporary operations in the parking lot at 113 North Lancey Street during the COVID-19 health crisis. It's an extension of a current brewery license, not a new application. So we don't need to consider having a public hearing and whether we would have one or not, which we normally would do on a new license. The town council is not required to sign off on the original brewery license. However, we are required to sign off on the extension of the license simply because there's outside consumption of alcoholic beverages in the parking lot. And as I noted, normally we have a special meeting for this, so we have proper notice, but it is an emergency situation under COVID-19 with the governor's plan to reopen, so we can do it this evening. And there are the special amusement with the music outside was dropped for right now to be able to do this, and so we'll pick that up later on.
Okay.
So this seemed to be a reasonable compromise. We talked to the state after a number of phone calls, and they've approved the diagram that was issued, which is great. It's a very professional diagram.
I don't see any issues. I don't see any issues.
The only thing I noticed looking on the request for an extension license, if you go down, it's got permanent checked. It's got permanent and outside instead of temporary and outside.
Where?
We have an email that indicates that this is temporary. It's not something they ever plan to do, but because the requirements under the emergency proclamations restricts the number of people you can have in the tasting area, you just can't fit enough people in there, so they have to be outside.
No, I got that, but on this state submitted paperwork, it's got permanent check instead of temporary.
I think that's because the state would be approving them to have permanent outside eating or outside consumption. The state wouldn't be issuing a temporary one for that. I think temporary is more like if you're having a one-time event type thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this will probably, Heather, do you anticipate this being for months until the order is lifted?
This is probably something that we plan on keeping during the summer months going forward.
Okay.
This year, obviously most important, but moving forward with the size of our space, this is important.
I would like to add that we are going to appear in front of the town council when it comes time for us to apply for our Chapter 43 restaurant license, when we plan on serving food and other alcohol. So that will be something that's brought up on a separate meeting.
Okay.
In the near future.
As well as any live entertainment, that is not, not in question right now.
Yeah, we're not planning on live entertainment outside at this point.
So with their regular plan coming out, once they get past all of this, there'll be a regular agenda item to address all of those other items they mentioned.
Will there be people housed at each entrance to stop underage drinkers?
If there's a question, Heather, that we need to answer, we can't hear everybody, so just repeat it if it's something that we need to clarify.
Okay, the question is whether there will be.
Whether there's going to be a person at each indicated entrance to block under 21s from coming in.
Whether there's someone blocking the entrances or checking IDs to get in to the outdoor area.
We plan on having a hostess station where we will be checking in people to sit down. They're not going to be allowed to sit down themselves in order to comply with the occupancy guidelines of the state right now. Under our license, we are allowed to allow patrons under 21 as long as they are with a guardian, and obviously not allowed to disturb them anything that has alcohol.
Right.
Okay, are you going to have a hostess station at each of the entrances off the parking?
We were discussing this today. I believe we're going to have roped off areas that lead to the front entrance outside, and that's where our hostess station will be in order to make sure that we can allow entrances from both sides.
If that is an issue, we can move it to one side, but that would involve people having to go around the entire building to get to a hostess station on one side.
I think the concern was having it at both places so that people coming in.
Well, if they're
would be checked
roping
in.
off a path to the hostess station, that addresses that issue.
Okay, Amanda's questions answered. Counselors, any other questions?
No.
No. Do we have any questions for the landlord, or would the landlord like to make a statement? Vaughn?
I'm good.
Okay.
You know, just for background, as far as anything outside of this, when I was on the planning board, I was there when they came in for a pre-application meeting, and so it was resolved at that time that there wasn't a need for a lot of town regulation regarding site plan review, et cetera, because there was a change of use. So this is so they've already approached the town on this. I think it's a pretty well known. Someone lived in Pittsfield and didn't know this was happening. They need to come out from under a rock. So I'm just appreciative of all the work that these two have been doing, and I think this is going to be a huge asset for downtown Pittsfield to have folks coming through, especially a place for folks to be amidst. I think the angst that folks have due to the physical isolation that we've been going through. So, and I'm very, I'm in communication with Mike and Heather quite a bit. And as it gets to some of the points you all were talking about earlier, a lot of this comes down to how the business implements the rules. And I've watched with their curbside delivery, that Mike and Heather have done an outstanding job of adhering to the DCD's regulations and the CDC regulations at the state level.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Heather, I have one more question, and it has nothing to do with this, except I want to know when they're going to offer gluten-free beer so that I can go.
I think you can probably check with them that on the side. But I might be interested to know too, so my husband can have a beer again. But anyway, Heather and Mike, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Unless anybody had any more questions, but I don't think so.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Catherine, did you have anything else?
No, it sounds good.
Okay. So counselors, not seeing any questions and not really having any audience online or in front of us except for Vaughn, who already said his piece. Let's vote on this item, and it's titled Resolution 20-73. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes.
Catherine, are you going to have a paper for us to sign later?
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Yes. I have it out.
Mayor, Heather, I've got to leave because I don't usually have to work on Tuesday nights, but tonight I have to be in Bangor at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I have no report this evening, and specifically, I apologize for running a little bit late. It's just been a hectic schedule.
Safe travels, Tim.
Thank you.
And be careful driving.
Thank you.
And we'll see you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, even though you had to go into work. All right, counselors, we are done with our agenda. We're going to go over to discussion items. Catherine?
Yes, I'll be very, very brief. On the special items, you have the department reports, which you've all seen. You also have the financial reports. I'll go through the financial reports for May 31st very quickly. And so, under the expense report, we are through 41.7% of the budget period as of May 31st, 2020. So 41.7%, we have expended of the municipal budget 30.7%, running as lean as we can, considering the revenues. And of the water, sewer, and municipal, we have spent 27.8% of the budget. That's for expenses. For revenues, we're running, I never thought we could get this low, but we can, and that's because we were closed for a couple of months, which were major excise tax months. And we're starting to get that back in, and we'll get all of that hopefully by July. We are through 41.7% of the budget period for revenues, and we have received 21.6% of our collections for just municipal. And for municipal water and sewer, we are through 24.5% of our expenditures have come in. Then going on to our two major revenue sources, which are the excise tax. This is the one that was mostly affected by the closure. We did some registrations through the Dropbox, but since the deadline was extended, very few people wanted to do them, but we did all of those that people wanted and promoted that. So in May, we received $12,490.15, and then remember that's before we opened on June 1st. So we were behind for the month $50,340.29, and for the year versus last year, we are behind $85,107.90. That's what a couple of months can do to you. On to state revenue sharing, which is totally the opposite picture, because the percentages went up, so even though the revenues are lower, that coming into the state, the percentages had gone up, so we would still get more. So that has worked out well. So for the month, we received $55,442.36, an increase of $20,188 for that month. And for the year, we are ahead of this time last year by $62,433. So hopefully the state revenue sharing will continue like that. This is May is a big month for revenue sharing. So that one's usually higher. The excise tax eventually will get caught up on most of that. And so that is the end of my report. And I do apologize for not sending the pan bid items out. We've never been through a period of time like this. I hope none of you ever get 600 emails in a day.
I'm still going through mine right now, Catherine. I feel you.
Oh, I'm with you on that one. All right, counselors, reports. Amanda.
I wanted to ask, now Donnie's gone of course, what the status of the new building at the transfer station was. I saw in the reports that they were still trying to fix electrical. Do we know when that's going to be resolved?
Yeah, the electrician he's trying to get the schedule from the electrician so that we can advertise it. So it has to be projected out. They chose the electrician. And so when that is done, the whole thing will be done all from Friday night when they close at 6. They'll start go over, on Saturday. And then they'll go over and work on that all the way through and be open on Tuesday.
Okay.
But we do need to know when that's going to be done so we can advertise just in case that there might be delays on Monday. But no, he's trying to work that out with the electrician.
Also, I just wanted to say still that the water pipe cap thing on Library Street is still wonky and not fixed. And I will be doing my best to attend the next meeting remotely, but I will be in a different time zone. So whether or not my phone reminds me to log on, I'm not sure how that will work, so I apologize in advance if I'm an hour late to the meeting.
We can just email you to remind you.
I tried to make sure it was set up for the reminder to be at 5:30 Eastern time, so we'll see.
It's an adventure.
It is an adventure, and I just wanted to thank everybody for their input with everything. I know this COVID-19 stuff is pretty emotional.
It is emotional.
And that we all have very strong feelings about what we should do, but I think it was a productive conversation. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Deb?
No report.
No report.
Oh,
Matt too?
sorry. I thought I heard Matt.
Matt wanted to get that right in there.
I have no report right now.
Sorry.
Peace.
I have no report.
Okay. I just have a couple things. I want to thank Superintendent Littlefield and her staff from MSAD 53 for coming in and doing the budget presentation. I literally cannot imagine what they have been going through trying to put this budget together and trying to foresee anything into the future in education right now. They are just amazing right now to be tackling that. Also, we talked about how to get the transfer street stickers, so I'll cross that off the list. And I want to thank the counselors for their flexibility in adding the item to the agenda tonight. This is really important to developing a new business here in town. They've opened their brewery. They've been doing Outland Farm opened their brewery. They've been brewing beer, and they've been doing curbside pickup. I think Friday, Saturday. They can order online and then stop and pick up. And they've also been doing farm drop, which is farm products from everybody in the area. It goes to Unity, and then they bring it back here to people in Pittsfield, so they don't have to travel to Unity. So Heather and Mike have really been trying to become part of the community, and I think they're becoming very successful at doing that. And being able for them to actually start serving their products is a huge step for them, and it really is making them more financially viable. Their business has had a number of starts and stops through construction and other items, and so it's really, really crucial for them to be able to take this next step. So I thank you for your flexibility and showing support for our businesses. And I think that right now, anything that we can do as a council or through our planning boards or through any of our boards and committees to be more supportive of our businesses. And as Amanda said, encourage people to come to town, not just for recreation, but to come and patronize our businesses as well. Those are all really, really important steps that we need to be taking so that we can hold on to those businesses that we do have and encourage new ones to form and to thrive here in town, which we have a lot of possibilities and a lot of potential for that. And I think that we need to really capitalize on that and continue improving on that. So thank you for that. And with that, I'll look for a motion.
Move we adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned. Unless anybody wants to say no, they don't want to adjourn.
No, and they definitely don't want to discuss the costs anymore.
There we go.
End the meeting. Thank you so much.
Oh, you think you have that paper for us to sign
Yes.
for that last one?
We have some papers up here. All right, we don't have the blank one that we have to fill in. We have the one that we did. So just sign it. We won't tell anyone you did it. Because you have to sign these ones. We're supposed to do it separately under CBC.
No.
But you just can't do it every
Stay
day.
6 feet away from me, jeez.
Yeah, let's turn the video off.
There we go. I'll let the next person.
So we have to sign both.